Hey everybody, sorry I'm late. I got tied up. I can't really stay, but I'm going to try to let people in who want to be let in. I'm hoping to get Dev Shell here and a couple other people. So how's everybody's week? Bear with me here. I'm just sending some invites out. So what's everybody arguing about in the chat? I missed it. Can somebody fill me in? Hey Vegas. I have a friend visiting and I forgot to start the stream. And so I really can't stay, but I'm hoping to get a couple people on here and then I can drop out. Anybody have any questions while I'm looking for co-hosts? Let me see here. So who is Mickey Farley? So is this the green gargantua or brown gargantua? Raven's coming. Okay, good. There's Raven.
Hello.
Hello, dear. How are you?
Hello. I was just broadcasting.
Good. Yeah, I forgot what time it was. Paul asked me to start this up, and I forgot. I kind of packed my schedule. And so my friend Steve is visiting, and Liam is here. Holy crap!
Yes, and he was promised Jaffa cakes.
Oh, and I'm gonna have to deliver now. Jeez. So, well, I mean, you lost 10 pounds, Jonah. That's good. Don't feel bad about yourself.
I wish I lost 10 pounds this week.
Vegas, who are you asking about how they got so sexy? Was it me or Raven?
You.
Me. Well, I shaved a little bit.
There you go.
Hey, Jonah, don't feel bad. I probably weigh twice what you weigh, so I have to lose a whole you, and I'd still be like you. So don't feel too bad.
Oh my god.
So I'm trying to get Mike and Kizzy on here. Hopefully they'll.
Well, there's 7 watching.
Wow. Liam, do you want to be in the stream? If so, I'll drop the link in your. I'll give Liam the link.
Nadia Yvette Chambers. I know that name.
Why yeah, I am. I'm wondering because it's a familiar name. 10 pound, different kind of pound. We're talking about 0.71 stone. Well, just keep the camera, neck height or above. I mean, you can only see me from here. I mean, yes, I am wearing pants, but it wouldn't be the only time if I was on without anything more than underwear.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm naked.
So yeah, I'm just trying to. Like I said, my friend Steve's here, so I can't stay on, but I want to try and at least get some people.
Oh,
And yeah, like I said, I screwed up my scheduling today. I took on way too many things.
I see.
But it's a good day though. So I hung out with some friends earlier, and now I got another friend I haven't seen in a year and 9 months, and it's hard to believe. I mean, time flew.
Nadia Yvette Chambers. I know that name. Why do I know that name? Who are you, Nadia? And obviously, I know you're Nadia.
So I'm gonna be here to let people in, but like I said, I can't stick. Can you kind of just do Q&A or something, or yell at people in the chat, and I'll let people in as they show up.
I can do both. I'm better at yelling at people than anything else, though.
Cool.
You used to run a show 5 years back, Nadia Yvette Chambers. I know the name. Oh no, do not restart now. What the fuck are you doing, computer? What is this nonsense? The fuck is this thing? My god. It was back when you could just make Google Hangout links public and before Google Plus was taken down. I see. I just know the name. I remember the name. You're trans, right? That's why I know you. Somebody told me about you and that I should go and check out your show. Hello.
Hey Vegas, you want in?
God, I'm getting like two different. Hang on. If I close it on YouTube, it will make more sense. That's better.
Is that better?
Yes. Now I can't hear myself talking to myself.
That sounds like an improvement.
Trust me, it is.
Okay.
Being the only person in this flat talking to myself all day is not uncommon.
Okay.
I sent you a link anyway, Vegas.
Oh, hang on.
So we can kind of get some people in there. So it just sucks. There's no way for me to like hand over. It's not like in like some Skype or something like that where you can give control over to somebody else.
Yeah, understood.
So how you been, Liam? I haven't seen you in ages.
Getting by.
Seriously,
Just
I haven't
about.
seen you in a dog's age.
I'm shorter now than I used to be.
How?
I'm sat down.
Well.
Okay.
So yeah, so I know you know about Blitzen, but I don't know if you knew about Molly.
I saw that she was unwell, but doing what she does and just telling illness to go fuck itself. I'm
Pretty
assuming
much.
I'm assuming I can swear.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, she's been kind of amazing considering that they told us that day, like, well, it wouldn't be too early to have her put down. And that was over 3 weeks ago. I mean, she's not going to survive. I mean, it's not like she's going to get better or anything, but she's still kicking cancer's ass for the moment.
I think one of mine hasn't got a lot of time left.
Oh, really?
Which, yeah. But on the plus side, I won't be there when it happens, because I think if I am there, I just I'll dig the hole myself and probably lie in it for a few days. It's like bring me water unless it rains, in which case I've got it covered.
Totally understand.
The people will wonder why a dog this big is in a hole.
What kind of dog?
Oh, the mongrelest mongrel that ever mongreled. It's literally, it has like German Shepherd ears on like a sort of Jack Russell sized body.
Oh, geez. That's funny. Yeah, so well, this is an unusual situation. Actually, everybody on the stream has been to my house.
Yeah, right? This is true. Sorry, I got to block somebody else. Sorry, block, goodbye.
Good. Who'd you block?
I don't know. So I can't even read their, it's another language. I don't know. They tried to video call me.
Oh, yeah. So this is from the gaggle of men who are trying to hit on you now.
It's insane. It's insane. It's crazy. I mean, it's just, I've been blocking people and stuff all day long.
Yeah, I could not handle being a woman. I really couldn't. I would. I mean, I don't like people as it is. If I was a woman and had people harassing me like that, I think I would just start punching everybody.
I mean, I like attention. I am an attention whore. I always was. I like the attention, but just the constant of, people sending video chats, like, just like, I don't know you. Like, you're not even sending me a message first and saying, hey, can you talk? You know what I mean? Nothing. You just go to fuck you, goodbye. And just like message after message of you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful. When at first it's cool, but after a while it's just like, who the fuck are you people? Where did you come from?
Oh, yeah.
Don't you know any women in your life at all? I mean,
they don't. They don't. That's the sick part. I mean, you go to, I don't know if it's probably still the same now, but you go in like any multiplayer game with a feminine name, and you'll be, within minutes, everybody's like, on you. I know I've played female characters before, and I don't know how many times there were guys like, basically finding out if I'm female, because, and I'm like, what's it to you? I'm not gonna, I'm gonna just meet some rando from work.
Personally think that's, hey kids, I personally think that it's pretty obvious that I'm trans. I mean, I don't consider myself to be very passable. So what I find really hilarious is, like, some of these guys apparently aren't aware, and they can't read all over my Facebook page. It says trans, right? Apparently they can't read or don't notice it. And they start like talking about my body and stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, you'd really like my dick too. And it's like sometimes they just go. At that point, they're just gone. And then others, it's just like, oh yeah, baby. I'm like,
tell them that your dick is bigger than theirs.
It probably is.
The thing is, it's bad enough, but then you get the guys that they would seek you out, but then if you did anything with them, that they would, they're the ones that freak out and have their panic attacks and commit violence.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, how do they even find my accounts, right? I mean, I have no idea how they found my Facebook, and literally, I've had 300 friend requests since yesterday.
Jeez, Christ!
It's nuts. It's crazy. It's all day long. It's been blowing up, and messages, and like, it's just insane. And it's like, how do they even find my account? Like that's what I don't understand is where did these people come from?
Hmm. I don't understand. Like the only one I get from women, other than people that I know, are basically like fake accounts that are just looking to get my data and all that kind of shit. It's like young hot girl that's just made an account within the last 36 hours. Oh, she wants to be friends with some 52-year-old fat black dude. Yeah, sure, that's legit. Like I got one yesterday where it literally says like I'm looking to hook up with people and there's a phone number. I'm like, oh god, now it's a phone scam.
You mean she's fake?
I think she might be fake. Jonah, it's nuts in more ways than one.
And like I said, I am an attention whore, and I do enjoy getting lots of attention. But yeah, I mean, it's like too much of a good. It's just crazy. I don't get it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, like I said, I do not envy women. That's why, like, sometimes guys will say something to me like, "Oh, well, she accused me of being sexist or this, that, and the other thing, and I wasn't doing that." And like, yeah, but the odds were in her favor. The odds were vastly in her favor that she was right. So these rare occasions when she's not right, okay, cut her some slack. So what are you up to, Kizzy?
Not a whole lot. Not just a whole lot of nothing.
Not much, huh? We can yell at each other again.
Hear my kid up there yelling?
Yep. Liam, I forget. Well, I knew you moved. So what county are you in now?
Oh, still the same one. I moved about 10 minutes away.
Oh, okay.
It's just that now the pub is, I can see it out my bedroom window rather than having to drive. And
well, that's handy.
yeah, well, it would be if I was able to actually leave until tomorrow.
Wow, this is true. But
Okay.
I'm trying to. Well, I'm going to be doing a trip around parts of the U.S. in September, but I'm trying to get over to the U.K. as soon as possible. I've got cousins in London and parts of Northumbria now, and Scotland too. Thanks to Ancestry, I've sussed this out.
Yeah, I think mine sort of left Ireland, got to Liverpool, thought, yeah, we like it here, we're not going anywhere else for about 100 years, and then my dad was like, no, it's crap here, I'm moving. Which is why I talk like this rather than like a Scouser.
Yeah. So you're not. That's why you don't sound like a Liverpudlian. Like well, see, apparently when parts of my family left Ireland, part came to the U.S. and part went to Northumbria. Then part of the Northumbria crowd came to the United States, and then half of them left the United States and went back to Northumbria. So I was very disappointed to find out. I was disappointed to find out that I wasn't a Geordie.
Well, anyone could be an honorary Geordie. I've got my Newcastle flag flying in. Well, not flying because it's indoors, but it's hanging up in the flat. In just about the only place it can hang that I don't walk into it, because the ceiling on my flat is about 6'7" at the highest point, and then the rest of it I have to walk through like this.
Yeah,
I live in a hobbit house.
Hobbit house, jeez. Well, you're really tall too. You're one of the few people I've met from YouTube that are actually taller than me.
Taller than every door frame I have as well.
I'm not taller than every door frame, but I am wider than most of them.
Yeah, I'm wide than most of mine as well.
just say no.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, because I tell you I could be home again. Yeah, I probably go off for the afternoon.
Oh, okay. All right.
Say no, yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
What's up?
Good to see you, Vegas.
Hey, Kazoom, how are you?
Doing all right.
Good, man. Liam, nice to meet you. Did Joe just take off?
Yeah, yeah, he's talking to his friend. I guess he'll be back. I don't know.
Gotcha. So do the Paul thing, Raven. What do you want to talk about tonight?
No, I mean, I don't know. Because I mean, I was thinking,
It's pretty good. Where's Mike at?
I don't know. Capital punishment, good or bad? Go.
I'm not for it.
I think I think I've said this before. I think someone should be given if someone should be given a choice. They should choose if they want to die instead of carrying out a sentence, and it should be done humanely. But the person who's accused of the crime should be able to make that choice.
It's pretty good. I like
All right.
that.
If you want to talk about current events, though, I would bring up Ron DeSantis in Florida versus it's the commentary against Ron DeSantis for all of the COVID-related issues and the increasing cases that are going on in Florida because he refuses to lock down the state. And the rights argument against that, they're going tit for tat, would be to say, well, you don't seem to give a shit about all the people crossing the border. And they don't seem to be vaccinated or give a shit either. So I'll leave it open-ended. Thoughts?
I have no thoughts.
No? Kazoom?
I'll be honest. I got distracted by the side chat, and I didn't hear the whole thing. So,
well, it was just a kind of a comparative. There's competing narratives, I'd say, this week in the news pertaining to COVID. Ron DeSantis is not locking down his state. He's getting a lot of flack from CNN and other kind of left of center media. And I guess the comeback from it is, well, the border. You guys don't care about immigration as it pertains to COVID.
who?
Anyway, the left broadly.
Okay, wait. What does Florida have to do with the border? Wait, what?
Let me take a step back. What do you think of Ron DeSantis?
I think he's an asshole.
Do you think he's gonna? No, that's well. Okay, I know that you think that, but do you think he's gonna make it? Because I think Ron DeSantis is going to take the nomination this early. I can say that.
Oh, I think he'll probably get the nomination.
Yeah.
No, I mean he's putting out all the right things.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think Trump's. I don't. I mean, I think Trump is playing kind of like fullback right now. I think. I don't think Trump's actually going to even run. Probably.
Well, that would be a trip. I still picture Trump being the main person, but then the next in line would be DeSantis. But I think DeSantis, though, I mean, if Trump dropped out, DeSantis to me is far more worrisome than Trump ever was.
Really? Why is that? He seems a lot more respectable.
Well,
a lot less.
It's the element. It's his Christian supremacist kind of. He wants to make it so. I mean, look what he's done at colleges. I mean, he's trying to make it so everything that's a rightward view, even if it's a bigoted view, needs to have equal say at colleges. You know, he's more likely to try to force media to go to his bidding than Trump. Trump may make fun of the media, but DeSantis would actually implement something that would limit the media.
No, that's the first take I've ever heard that somebody thinks that DeSantis is actually worse than Donald Trump. But I haven't followed that specifically, that one thing specifically. Regardless of what I think about him, I just know he's posed to be. I think he's going to take it for sure. And I thought he was going to take it kind of for opposite reasons. I was just like, well, he's not a retard on Twitter. He knows when to keep his mouth shut and things like that. He seems a lot more presentable.
But yeah, in that regard, yeah, he's those regards he's far better than Trump. But as far as policy, he'd be way worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a poll recently. I don't know if you guys have mentioned it, but it was a straw poll, and basically DeSantis was the only one who got any attention. So when it was DeSantis versus Trump wins, but if it's DeSantis versus the rest of the field, he like houses everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a shoo-in for the nomination because Trump is either going to be in jail or just not running. So
the other thing, it's funny though. Here's what I've learned about politics: is that even the things I would say, yes, if everything happened tomorrow, no doubt that would be the case. But what's really funny is like how political fortunes change. If you think about like 2016, going into that, we all thought it was going to be Hillary versus Jeb, and then Jeb Bush washed out very early.
Well, yeah, I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be Jeb when he said, "Please clap."
Well, right, but he was at that point because he was already flagging. His campaign was already faltering, and yeah, that was like one of the saddest things in politics I've ever seen. Please clap, like, oh, dude, no. It already looked pathetic. You begging them to clap made it 10 times worse.
Yeah, he was kind of dry the entire time. I think people just didn't want it. They just wanted the populist candidate or some sort of outsider. Didn't really matter what it was.
Well, I mean, they didn't run anybody with any kind of fire though against Trump, and if they wanted to have a chance against him at all, and to protect their party from him getting the nomination, they would have put somebody up that would have put up a real fight, but they didn't.
I think a lot of the right resonated with Rand. I think Rand had an actual shot against Trump for a little bit. But other than that, I don't know who else would have actually been a contender at the time.
I don't understand what you're saying, Nadia. The Democrats stalling until there's a Republican president to pardon Trump. Like,
yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me either.
I don't get that. Are you saying that they would do that on purpose, or just through incompetence? Which that I could potentially buy. But
Incompetence. Yeah, I can see that.
But I have heard people try. But I mean, the thing is that. Well, no, I mean, I definitely see more malice out of Republicans, but I don't see that the Democrats purposely trying to get Trump back or getting somebody in to pardon Trump, because they could just pardon Trump if they wanted to, and they're not doing that either.
Yeah, I don't see a whole bunch of folks on the left trying to protect Trump. That doesn't make any sense.
No, not even the most conservative Democrats trying to protect Trump.
Yeah, but he's not trying to protect anybody else either, the dumbass. Problem with Joe Manchin is he can't go anywhere.
What do you mean he can't go anywhere?
If he were to get voted out, a Republican would take that seat.
Right. And then you're in the same spot.
Anywhere. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard enough as it is with him there. With him gone, it would be even worse. And if the party gets too harsh on him for not following the party line, he'll just switch parties. I don't think he would give a shit at all. I don't think he would break a sweat.
No, Republicans kind of, obviously love Joe Manchin right now. So,
But, and I agree with Raven, and I think that the way to deal with Manchin is not to try to primary him; it's to win more seats and make him basically render him irrelevant.
Irrelevant, yeah.
where would you win those seats?
Actually, if you look at the electoral map, the Republicans have more seats that are vulnerable this time than Democrats by a pretty wide margin, actually. Ohio, for one.
Right. Having vulnerable seats is a lot different than winning them, though.
Sure.
And Democrats are not good at winning. They're just not. And that doesn't make any goddamn sense because they know exactly what they have to do. They know where the people land on a lot of issues and a lot of policies. And like they do every election, they will drop the ball because that's what they do.
A big part of the problem, I've said for decades now, it's the relationship between the Republicans and Democrats have been very much like an abusive family. So the Republicans are the abusive father, and the Democrats are the battered mother, and they run scared all the time. And it's like, just stand up. I think if they stand up for what they actually supposedly believe in, people will respond. And
But
that's
they don't. The reason they don't is because of donations. It's corporate money. That's why they don't. The Democrats fold on everything that the left wants. They fold on all of it every time because they don't want to piss off the donor class.
Yep.
That's what it comes down to.
the funny thing is, you have had some Democrats that have said, "Okay, screw the corporate money," and have done fine. It's just that.
But look at where they're from. Bernie, Warren, they can do that. They're going to be voted in for the rest of their lives forever, for eternity after they're dead. I mean,
Oh yeah. Well, sure. I mean, certainly in the more liberal places, for sure. But
Bernie can do no wrong in Vermont.
right.
He could actually hop on a flight to Vermont, go home, walk into the state capitol, burn the governor's house down, and get reelected. He's God to those people.
Yeah. Yeah, Vermont's kind of strange too. It's very liberal on most things, but it tends to actually be kind of conservative on guns.
Yeah.
Which is why actually for decades Bernie actually had a good rating from the NRA, because he's in a state that's very pro-gun, even though it's liberal. And that's where he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and he did his job, though. I mean, the idea is you look after your constituents. You try to make sure that you provide what they put you in office for. And if they're looking to have their gun rights protected, well, that's what he was going to do. I mean, he was going to vote to do that. It makes sense, and as a representative, whether it's a representative in Congress or in the Senate, you're still a representative of your state, of the people that put you in office. You can't just go ahead and substitute your own thoughts and your own values for the people. I mean, that's not what the job is. That's what most of them do, but that's not what the job is.
So I got a question for you guys. Did Obama and now Joe Biden, do they secretly take money from the gun industry? Because both of those people, at one point, Joe just the other day, laid out this insane, like it was like he pretended like he knew how to talk, and he was like, I would go after the high capacity weapons. I mean, it didn't make any sense, but we all knew what he meant. And I'm like, why? Like, nothing's gonna happen. Why would you work up this issue over Something it's inactionable. It basically is what I'm getting at. So I don't really understand why.
Are you saying it's inactionable because of the current composition of Congress?
Yes.
Well, but see, that's not a reason not to stand up because that's been the problem of the Democrats with people on the left. It's because very often the Democrats will run away from issues that's supposedly part of their core beliefs, but they're afraid. Well, we can't get this passed, so what ends up happening is people on the left feel like, oh, well, they're not really going to stand up for us. So even if it's not going to pass, at least stand up for the issue. Because the funny thing is, you actually don't lose as much political capital as people think. I mean, again, I've said this in past streams. Look at what the Republicans do. They tried to overturn Obamacare 63 times. It wasn't going to pass. They didn't give a shit. They just did it anyway. And that's why their voters show up on a regular basis, because they, even though they're trying to do horrible things, their voters want them to do those horrible things. So,
yeah, and in their voters' eyes, at least they're trying. When it comes to the Democrats, they're not even really trying to do hardly any of the stuff the left wants.
Right. Now, as far as like any kind of legislation or like a ban on certain kinds of weapons, I mean, we've done that in New Jersey, and it was very successful. And I mean, there was the ban under Clinton that actually was very successful.
Wasn't that Joe Biden's ban? Or no, that was separate. He did that earlier.
No, he might have been. That might have been, but that was while Clinton was president, though. And yeah, I mean, then it was successful. So I'd like to say it's inactionable. It's only because of the makeup of Congress right now. But as far as
in what way was it successful? You mean it's successfully passed, or was it successful at actually?
It was successful as far as impacting violent death rates from guns dropped.
Well, according to my Facebook memes, that would be inaccurate.
Well, according to data, your Facebook memes are inaccurate.
The Brady bill passed in '93 under Clinton. So,
yeah, I don't know. I'd have to really look into it, but it's like just I had thought that it had little effect in the end.
If you look at when when it expired and didn't get renewed under Bush II, there's a correlation. I'm not going to say causation, but there's a correlation between that and mass shootings.
Yep.
Is that because they were actually, or are they using the actual same sort of definitions and metrics though, or is that because what constitutes a mass shooting is less than what it used to be? Like it's like 3 instead of 4, or like how the FBI determines what constitutes a mass shooting, is because that happened around the same time frame.
No, but it was FBI data.
Normalized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, what happened actually in the 90s? I want to say the 90s. Actually, that had an impact nationwide that is still impacting us. Was the Heller decision. And that was fucking disastrous, in my opinion.
Refresh my memory.
Heller decision was when the Supreme Court decided that the Second Amendment actually meant that an individual had the right to bear arms.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that, again, the Republicans like to say they're originalists, but all throughout the 1800s, they ruled the opposite. That
220 years. 220 years to say this was always no, it wasn't always. But whatever.
Okay, so do you have a magic pill to find out who the so-called bad people are?
Bad people. Everybody's a law-abiding citizen until they're not. Everybody. I always hate that thing about gun laws only affect law-abiding citizens. Everybody's a law-abiding citizen until they're not.
Yeah.
And surely bad people with bad guns would be fine because they wouldn't work. Bad people with good guns is the problem.
Good point.
So how did I can't remember how
you give a mass shooter a musket, fucked.
Yeah, bad. It's gonna be
Mass shooting with a musket. Gotta love that.
Yeah, if a guy's got a musket and he's a mass shooter, then you almost have to blame the victims in that case. If you get shot, given that it's gonna take like 45 seconds to reload, like fucking run, motherfucker, run.
Just stand behind a car.
Because you're kind of a pro gun guy for someone being on the left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm pro gun. It's not really a core of my issues, but I do tend to think that much of this, like, oh, we got to get rid of them. Like the fear behind it is what I don't get. Like, I just don't see these mass shootings as being an actual severe or that common of occurrence to warrant the kind of legislation thereafter, I suppose.
They're happening like every day. Or, we had a respite during COVID for nice so there was something good that came out of COVID, but
Sure.
There have been mass shootings in this country since the country's inception. There have been school shootings from the very beginning. They're not new, but the frequency has been increasing since the 90s, and it's really disturbing.
Yvette just said something that I've been saying for a while now. The NRA is always silent when it comes to black gun owners' rights, and that's the reason why I don't give a fuck about the Second Amendment, because if it's a right I don't really have. I mean, I can get shot just because I might have a weapon, whereas a guy could shoot up a church, kill 9 people, and they'll take him out for fucking Burger King. So it's literally, it's like, I don't feel that I actually have that right, that I could safely be a gun owner in the way that Vegas could. So it's not a right. It's a privilege. Because if we don't all have it equally, then it's not a right.
I thought the NRA. I mean, sorry, I know what you're saying is separate, but didn't the NRA don't they have a black dude that's sort of like the face of the NRA right now, Colin?
Well, yeah, it's called tokenism. I mean, when it came right down to it, when John Crawford III had a toy gun, it was actually an airsoft gun in a Walmart or something like that. The police ambushed him and killed him, and the NRA was silent. And so, but of course they believed he had a real gun. Of course, he was in an open carry state, so even if it had been a real gun, it would have been perfectly legal for him to do. Earlier that same year, there were Second Amendment advocates who were going around to like supermarkets and grocery stores, and
like AR-15s and all that.
Yeah. Because there might be a terrorist behind the butter at Safeway, and
I will say this though, like when I get on my YouTube thing, my binge, my purge, and I see these like anti-cop, like I'm walking outside with an AR-15, it is the most douchey looking kind of activist horse shit. Like, it's so bad. I hate looking at that stuff. It's bad. It's bad.
Well, that's the thing, and what really gets me is I watch a lot of like First Amendment auditor videos, and there's good ones and there's bad ones. There's some guys are really good at it. Some guys are just schmucks, and who just want to like curse at the cops and all that kind of stuff. Which what gets me is that there's a lot of the First Amendment auditors are anti-cop. But yet I see like a lot of anti-BLM stuff in the comments, and it's like, guys, you guys should be on the same side. So you shouldn't be. You both find the cops to be adversarial, but again, so here people who should be supporting at least the ideals of BLM, if not the the pseudo organization. Well, I don't know who you are, Bill, so I don't give a fuck whether you would trust me or not. I do not. As much as I hate the metaphor, I have no more fucks to give.
When you're just talking about things that are conflict with each other, I suddenly think of the people who fly what is it called, the Gadsden flag, the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, and right next to it they fly a thin blue line flag, and it's just like one is saying to obey, and the other says the opposite. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah. Don't tread on me. So yeah,
But a lot
government
of these people,
government stay off my back, and then I'm going to support the force arm of the government.
yeah, I mean, and a lot of these people have no idea what these flags mean. They're just symbols that their group has told them they should worship. They don't understand what it means.
Yeah. Well, it's like the people that were beating cops with a thin blue line flag on the 6th. But and then, the same thing I was saying before about the gun rights. Tamir Rice is another one. They thought he had a real gun, and they pulled up in their car, and with under 3 seconds he was dead. You know, I remember there's a guy that he was at a gas station, and a cop comes up on him, pulls his gun out on him, and wants to see his license and insurance. The guy's like, okay. So he goes to get it in his car, and the cop shoots him. And the guy's like, why'd you shoot me? He's like, you went in your car. I'm like, you told me to give me my license and insurance. Like, I'm standing outside the car. I don't have it in my hand. What the fuck do you want me to do? Oh, yeah, pro-life. That's another one, too. See, my friend Todd, he's Catholic. He's a deacon in his church. And he's anti-abortion. However, every year, at least once a year, he posts this thing that says, if you consider yourself pro-life, but you don't care about the child once it's born, you're not pro-life. If you're in favor of the death penalty, you're not pro-life. And he just has this whole big long list. So at least Todd, he's like consistent. So I can respect him even if I disagree with him, because he's got a consistent position. Oh yeah. Also, he said if you're pro-war, that's another one too.
So a question on that: do you think that the right or the conservative argument against abortion is more just banning it outright, or do you think it's actually just to do with funding? Because I see that misconstrued on the left a lot. Mitch McConnell came out about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about just that on the House floor. He was like, look, it's a contentious issue, obviously, for a lot of people on the right. Just don't make them fund Planned Parenthood. So is that your actual take, or is that?
So the vast majority of the services that are rendered by Planned Parenthood don't involve abortion. That's number one. Number two, government money never funds abortion. In any state in this country, the government does not pay for abortions. It just doesn't. And when the right says that, they're lying. It's
right.
Bullshit. So it has nothing to do with funding. It's 100% completely a religious issue for the right. It's about God, and it's about Jesus.
Well, just a couple.
Only thing that it's about.
A couple of years ago, right down Mike will know what I'm talking about, but we have a Planned Parenthood here in town, and this nutcase went and shot it up, and it was pretty catastrophic. I don't know if you guys, it's here in Colorado, but yeah, it's a thing. I get that aspect. I always hear that argument, but I guess I always looked at it more as a funding issue than anything else.
Yeah, but the government doesn't fund abortions.
Yeah.
Well, it's the other thing too is that Green made the point, and it's true. The Republicans were pro-choice up until like the early 60s. Basically, it was a wedge issue that was selected specifically to be a wedge issue. Because here's the funny thing: in the Bible, there's the concept of ensoulment, and ensoulment didn't happen until the act of birth. So they were never concerned about abortion because it was not considered, at least from a religious perspective, because it wasn't considered, killing an ensouled person. But then they made it a wedge issue, and it's remained a wedge issue. And now there's people. I'll grant you, there are people who are like, quote unquote, true believers who are not aware of the history, and they've really been convinced, like, oh, we got to save little fetuses. But the problem is,
it goes beyond that though. I mean, there was, through the 60s and 70s, through the feminist movement, there was people on the other side like Phyllis Schlafly. Her entire purpose for being was to do and say anything that would cause women on the left to look like crazy psycho lesbians that want to kill babies. That was her mission. In the name of Jesus, amen. That was her mission, and that's what she did. And she did real damage to abortion rights, to women's rights, to the gay movement, to a lot of things on her, speaking tours that she did in the name of conservatism. Amen.
Yeah, she was a pretty horrible person.
So that's it would the 60s. So that's right. After LBJ, Joe, it was just conservatism didn't look like conservatism does right now, right? So,
right.
And that's that. There's still. I actually looked into this. It was, you know, how much evangelicals, like the actual real evangelicals in this country there are. It's like only 21%. So if you extrapolate that out and say, okay, that's just a third of the GOP, but they control so much, you know. So I'm not fond of that aspect, but
well, especially, I mean, considering that the Republicans at least pretend to be the libertarian type party, even though but
that's where they go though. It's strange bedfellows on
right.
the right.
The thing, right? But the thing is, the libertarian position would be body autonomy, I would think.
Well, yeah, but the way that gets applied is bodily autonomy, or like they would use some sort of contract theory for the infant, right? They'd say, look, this infant didn't ask to come into this world. This is a contract you created as a result of you having, having sex and becoming pregnant. That individual then has rights. That's how they would.
The problem with that, though, is the infant isn't an infant yet, and it is not yet been brought into the world. So,
yeah,
I'm not anti-abortion. I'm just
right. Well,
I know. I'm just saying though that's what the case is.
Well, plus, like Tracy Harris put this really, really well. It's the best explanation that I've ever heard. And her point is, she'll ask somebody, say, okay, if do I have the right to your kidneys or your liver or any of your organs? To even if I'm going to die if I don't have access to your organs, but do you owe me access to your organs? And most people will say no. Like, okay, well, what if you're my parent? Does a parent have to give up their organs or the use of their organs to their children? If they, I mean, obviously you have to feed and clothe your child, but are you obligated to give your child one of your organs if they need that to survive? And most people, again, will say no. Well, then, why? She's like, well, why is the use of my uterus any different?
It just depends on how you interpret contract, right? Like what it means to set up and establish a contract, and as a natural result, though it's not a verbal contract, but it's of the same sort where it's a built-in expectation. It's the natural result of something that you have created.
Well, but the whole thing is, there's always the assumption, that like getting pregnant is a necessary consequence of.
It's a necessary risk.
It's a risk, but the thing is, it doesn't have to be a necessary consequence, and so that's where to me where their argument falls apart. Unless we want to view pregnancy as a penalty for having sex, which is kind of how I think that they act. You're muted, Raven.
Many on the right do see it that way, though.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think that they see it as a natural consequence of behavior.
Right. And exactly, a punishment. This is what you get.
I don't think they would say punishment. I would think they would say it's a consequence.
You should have been a good girl and held a nickel between your knees.
Yeah.
And the worst of it is the ones, that's bad enough. The worst of the ones that, like, even in the case of, you were raped or you were the victim of familial incest or something like that. And it's like, well, that person didn't make a choice to do anything that resulted in their pregnancy. It was done to them.
Right. But you're also talking about the exception, and that doesn't invalidate the rule. And
but I'm saying, but the thing is that I can't remember the statistics, so I'm not going to pull numbers out of my ass. but it was a shocking percentage of right wingers who had this feeling, and I'm like, that's to me that's sick. The whole contract thing again. I don't agree with it, but I get that as an argument. But when someone's going to basically ignore that in the case of someone who literally did not make that choice to do anything, and you're saying that they're saddled with this whether they want to or not because biology, that's perverse.
No, I
And
mean,
I-
I agree, actually. I want to make it clear.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
no, I know that's not your argument, and I feel bad. Unfortunately, you're the unwilling proxy for everyone on the right, even for the shit that you don't agree with.
Yeah, so the thing when you're on the right and you're not a social conservative,
Yeah.
so like I would call myself a libertarian as a way to differentiate that, even though I'm not technically a libertarian.
Right.
I classify myself as a conservative, meaning, I am just merely the check on progressive endlessness, right? Like I do think that we are way overboard with how much we've spent and things like that. Just things like that, and I'm just big on the individual liberty stuff, But I don't have any moral objections to any of the left's programs that they'd want or anything like that.
Yeah, I hear you.
So over the last several decades, though, it's the right has basically ran the economy into the ground, and it was the left that pulled it out.
Well, it was the Republicans that did that. Yeah. But it was both. I mean, both parties have spent a lot, but the Republicans have spent even more.
The Republicans, yeah, exactly. They've spent a lot more. I mean, it's always been, the Democratic presidents that have left with our economy in better shape than when they walked in.
Yeah, but that's a trope. I mean, Bill Clinton had a lot of Republicans in the House. I mean, this stuff isn't
right. But but the thing is, it all goes for Clinton. It all goes back to the budget map for the '94 budget, well, I wouldn't say no. There's only a tiny number of Republicans that voted for it, and they're almost all Democrats. And that was when he raised taxes and a bunch of things. And see, that's the thing that stymies me, because it's like when you compare when we've been under a Democratic blueprint for as far as the economy versus the Republican blueprint, and basically the trickle down, cutting taxes and doing all that has never worked for us, not on the federal level and not on the state level. But when we, I remember I supported Wesley Clark for the 2004 primary, and so I spent a lot of time in the campaign. I actually went up to New Hampshire to help campaign and everything like that. And he gave a speech, and his point was like, yeah, people call the Democrats tax and spend. He goes, okay. He said, well, the Republicans are borrow and spend. So they spend more money and they tax less, and they keep saying this is going to grow the economy, and it never does. So we get left with a huge debt, even bigger debt.
I mean, both. There's plenty of blame to go everywhere around.
Right.
Borrow and spend.
It's kind of like it's less important how much is spent than where and how it is spent.
Right.
If you dump a whole shit ton of money in the top 10% of the population, that money's gone. It's gone. It's just gone. It has no, it doesn't ripple through the economy. It doesn't do anything. There is no echo effect. There's no bang on effect. There's nothing. It's just gone. Rich people get richer and it goes offshore. It's gone. You give a shit ton of money to the poor, you create jobs, you lift people out of poverty, food sells, schools, everything across the board does better because poor people invest that money into their community by using it, by spending it, by living.
Yeah, and they buy things that they have to have.
They buy things that they have to have, and everybody's quality of life goes up.
No, I agree with that.
So, I mean, and it ends up all the money ends up going back up to the top any fucking way. That's just the way our whole system is set up. All the money goes up to the top no matter what. But at least when you give it to the poor, if you give it to the bottom first, it does a lot of good on its way up.
So this is where I'm on board with the way we're structured now, our monetary policy, because the wealth is stagnated and it's held almost like it's in the death grips of the wealthy. And so you almost have to dilute the currency to put it into the economy, because we've proven we're just really not capable of just taxing them, I think. So it's kind of like out of necessity that we have to run this course through inflation. I think it's kind of shitty, but that's where we're at.
Well, that's the thing, you know, that's the real thing. Ultimately, and this is like what I try to admonish, you know, people who like, you know, try to blame everything on capitalism. Like the problem we have here is that we have our system is upside down. The First off, the purpose for high marginal taxes isn't to actually collect the rate. Back when the marginal rate was 91%, almost nobody actually paid 91%. What it was a disincentive to hoarding the money at the top, because
Right.
it's actually bad for capitalism to concentrate all the money on the top. The capitalism works based, you know, a market-based economy is dependent on the flow of money. And as Raven said, you know, when the consumer classes have money, they spend it.
Right. It's dependent on a market. A market economy. It's dependent on the market. And if the market is broke, I'm the market. You're the market. You know, when we're broke,
It dies.
Yeah, I want somewhere in between those things, though, because I'm not against anybody getting massively wealthy and accruing a shitload of wealth, because there's goods that can come from it. And I know we bash billionaires for going out into outer space and stuff, but like aggregated capital like that, like really does bring a lot of things to the market. So
Well, but see, that's just the thing. I'm actually not against people accumulating wealth either.
yeah,
So the thing is that, you know, again, the idea is that, okay, when those top marginal rates are really high, what it does is it keeps it from getting ridiculous.
right. Because right now I would agree it's ridiculous, but
you know,
yeah.
and so, you know, so I think, you know, when I mean, to me, hell, like under Clinton, we went up to like the top marginal rate was what 42%, I think.
too low.
But you know, that was enough to pump the economy. We had 23 million jobs that we basically wiped out the annual deficit. You know, maybe it wasn't high enough, but you know, it was good enough to
like you were saying before, right? In 1957, right? 1957, it was 91%.
Yeah.
There's an inequality in wealth, though, now that exists in a way that doesn't.
And there's a lot of things. There's a lot of issues. Like the 91% kind of a thing would not work today. It's something I talked about on the Breakfast Club before. It wouldn't work. We are not in a post-World War II economy. We are not the booming industrial world power that we were in the 50s. So yeah, that wouldn't work. A 91%, it wouldn't work. You would break business by doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, even the 42% under Clinton still wouldn't be enough, though.
Well,
So
here's the thing.
60% tax on the wealthy.
Well, here's the other thing, though. As far as, you know, a 91% tax rate could work if it's at a very high threshold. So in other words, like people making, you know, $20-30 million a year, because it's basically, you know, because remember, you know, businesses are only paying taxes at most on their profits, at least their federal taxes. So it's only
at a high threshold. Only the most stupid rich will be paying it, right?
Exactly. And of course, what it's really there for, like I said, it's really an incentive to say, hey, you know what, we're going to take like almost all of that money, and your state taxes are probably going to take the rest of it. But if you invested in your business, either by buying capital equipment or hiring people, you know, putting people to work or training your workers or whatever, all those are 100% deductible. And so now you're not going to be paying the taxes, but your company's going to be improving.
But weren't those the same business practices that created these major, massive corporations now that are so big that they can basically buy the planet?
Well, you certainly had big companies back in the 50s and 60s, but that's the whole thing. When people say, "Oh, it's going to kill business," we still had mega conglomerates even with the top marginal rate.
Well, because they did exactly what you said, though. Instead of paying the tax, they invested in their business and they grew their business into these big, massive conglomerates.
Right.
I mean, you know, you can't like buy something of a name brand off the shelf anymore. And like if you buy Kraft cheese, right? Well, Kraft is owned by somebody else. So it's just, you know, you're supporting this big, major, mega thing with your fucking cheese. You know,
Yeah.
when back in like the 50s and 60s, it was just all they did was cheese.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know what I mean?
well, the other thing too is further back, and actually, the other thing that used to be more prevalent is the antitrust laws used to be enforced more back in the day, and that prevented you from getting too big to fail. Because they said, "Hey, wait a minute, you're into anything." Well, here, think about one thing where things have gone tits up. We blame a lot of it on social media, but it really started before that. Is when they basically stopped. Like it used to be that you couldn't own more than one station in a given market. You'd have like one radio station and one television station, and that's it. So this way, it kept media from being consolidated. But now, like they're talking about, like Sinclair owns like dozens of stations in a given market, and all you're going to get if you're in a Sinclair area is Sinclair news, or if you're in some other area, you can get somebody else's
It's
news.
crazy. Have you seen those compilations of the news where all of the scripts are identical?
Yeah.
It's just that's insane.
Yeah,
It's pretty frightening actually when you watch those things. Like no
Exactly.
joke, it's frightening.
exactly. So that was one of the things. That was kind of I don't know if it was under the antitrust laws or it was just under the FCC auspices, but basically they enforced so that you couldn't have. And when it really broke, it was actually Murdoch. Murdoch wanted to buy something, and it was another channel in the same market, and they let him do it. And then once they broke the seal, then it opened it up for everybody else to do it. And then you had the consolidation.
Yeah, that's not good.
Broke the seal, and then they couldn't stop pissing. Yep.
That's right. It's not good to have only like 2 or 3 media sources.
How obvious is it though? It's so obvious. The ubiquitous messaging. It's just, I don't like it.
Well, this is where, like, I know, and you may, okay, and you probably are different on this, Vegas, than some other people who would call themselves libertarian, because I've run into a lot of people that are like, well, basically anything that's good for business is good for business, so we don't want to interfere with business. But as but in this case, it creates that bad situation where the things that make the market work stop working because when you limit competition. That's why antitrust laws are important, because again, you in order for the free market to be free, you have to have competition.
Yeah, I would agree. My libertarianism, I guess, my neoliberalism, if you will, stops at the border. There's a way that I visualize the market as being an important force, but I subjugate the market to people's control of that market.
Right. You don't worship it.
No, I don't worship the market. So there you go. Whatever that makes me, I don't know.
But that's an important distinction, because there are people out there who whatever the market does is right. And
yeah, it's not true, because I know you guys would be not on board with any sort of sense of private nationalism probably, but I do think that there is a type of underlying moral framework of things that we ought to be prioritizing over pure market forces. Like, when I say, hey, yeah, we could have cheaper iPhones if we did business with this authoritarian entity over here. But we shouldn't, just because it's the wrong thing to do.
I agree with that.
I think that, I would land on the side of there is some sort of shared morality that we have when it comes to things like that I would prioritize over those market forces for sure.
Yeah. Let's see, we're more on the same page than we might have thought.
Yeah.
But, and that's why I remember, you probably remember this. There was a time when most favored nation status was a big deal and granting it. And I remember there was always a thing like, oh, why are we giving it to China? We kept doing it. And then now it's not even a wedge issue anymore. No one even talks about it or cares. And it just happens. And it's like, but it should mean something.
Right. Exactly. Like those are conversations that ought to be had, like it's enough, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, we're not actually that far apart. I think I just am that much further to the right of you.
Yeah.
On the other side.
Yeah. I thought Kizzy was going to say something.
Looks like he wants to say something.
He should say something.
He should.
Something.
Jealous of that bandana, Kiz.
He just wants to be there looking handsome.
It certainly looks better than the way my hair looks now. So
Kiz is an attractive man.
He is.
Yeah.
He definitely is. If I was gay, I mean, you know.
Right. I mean, maybe.
him and Latham Way and Soretta Yuki.
Oh, I love me some Soretta Yuki.
Isn't he dreamy?
Oh, I have had the hots for him for years, and he knows it. He doesn't talk to me anymore, though. I mean, we're still friends on Facebook, but we don't really interact.
Yeah. He doesn't really interact with hardly anybody. But his channel used to be Soretta Yuki. I don't know if it's still up anymore. But very, very. And it's funny because he thinks he's ugly, and I'm like, dude, are you out of your fucking mind?
No, he's
I would like harm many human beings to look like you.
He's kind of looking Jason Momoa-ish lately, though.
Yeah,
and that's not a bad thing, but yeah.
But yeah, it was.
That's Aquaman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm checking to see if there's any Soretta Yuki.
He's a handsome man. He is a good-looking man, but
Who is
I'm
he?
more partial to young Soretta Yuki. You know, a few years back when he was thin and he had the little flip in his hair. God, he was cute.
Yeah, somebody put a mirror of one of his videos. I will put that in the chat for anybody who wants to see what Soretta Yuki used to look like. That's not the best. His hair is short in this one. He was better with longer hair, I think. But
no, I like them with the short hair.
But yeah, he's definitely a handsome man. So this is I feel like I've come so far in my life because I can say how another man is dreamy and not worry about somebody, casting aspersions or accusations. And yeah, no, he's fucking awesome looking. I love to look like him. He's dreamy. I've told him that too, so he knows.
But he used to come into my blog TV all the time, and I'd be just like, "Oh, hi."
Yeah. William knows him too.
He's a cutie.
Yeah, I remember the days when people used to do that to me.
Yeah,
Liam, you're dreamy.
Was one of the top earners on Madness, Mayhem, and Charity, by the way.
By making myself look less dreamy.
I really need to do another one of those events. I really do. I've been saying for a long time I was going to do another one. I really should do another one, and make you, I don't know, shave your head again, maybe.
There's not much left of it. I would have to title my hour "Make Me Go Bald Quicker," because the headphones help obscure like the hairline. It's getting bad.
Oh, you got a 6 head going there.
I know.
So I saw on your Facebook page there's some pictures with you and one of your mates, I guess, your bud, and you guys are drinking and stuff. And I'm just like, well, look at Liam looking all gay.
What, I'm doing that?
Yeah.
I'm in touch with every facet of myself. I don't have any like, I don't post things being like, I hope people don't think I'm too manly to be doing that now.
No,
I liked how I looked. I had a feather in my hair, which, and then as soon as I lost it, I fell over. Because I've always thought of feathers as being like a good luck charm. Because once I went paintballing, like the first 2 rounds, didn't have a feather in my hair, got shot to shit. 3rd round, I found a feather on the floor, picked it up, put it in my mask.
That wasn't very lucky for the bird, though, was it?
Well, it might have just fallen out. I'm not saying the bird got shot. All I know is that for the next 2 hours I didn't get shot, and then I lost the feather and got shot. Whereas the night when I was drinking the cocktails, doing that pose,
Mhm.
I had the feather in my hair. I was wearing Cuban heels, which already being 6'5" in Cuban heels, it's a cumbersome prospect.
Wait, you're 6'5"?
Yeah.
6'4" 3/4", but I round everything up.
I don't remember you.
That's like an NBA center right there.
I remember when you came to the States and you stopped at the Flying Monkey, and I remember you being tall. I didn't realize you were that fucking tall.
Well, yeah, no, that's
I
the
was
thing.
sat down most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I'm used to being, one of the tallest, if not the tallest person in the room, and so it's weird for me when someone's taller than me because it's like, whoa, Nah, this is how everybody else feels.
How tall are you, Joe?
A hair under 6'3".
You're taller than me. Well,
So all the guys in this stream are wearing black shirts.
And the girl is wearing a blue dress.
Yeah, it's just a shirt. Just stop.
Oh, it's just there. Well, yeah, you're right. All the men are wearing black shirts. That's cool. We're black, like our spirits.
yeah, pretty much.
This was the nearest one I could
Or
find
like-
to throw on before I came on here.
Like Steve Jobs, or
I was GMing earlier, so I usually wear black when I GM. Raven looked confused by my statement.
No, I'm sorry. I'm reading something.
Oh.
A mutual friend posted.
So I'm looking through the news in the background, and there's remarkably almost nothing interesting going on in the world right now.
Pegasus.
It's kind of great.
I was going to say, is that good news?
Pegasus.
Pegasus.
Pegasus is that Israeli software that can like bust into phones and is untraced virtually.
Oh, is that shit that God, what's the Saudi prince's name? Golly, who killed Khashoggi? What's his name? Oh my God.
Yeah,
Bin Salman.
Yeah, Bin Salman. Yeah.
Yeah, so he bought. Didn't he buy that stuff from? Yeah, he bought that stuff from Israel and like stuck it on. He stuck Pegasus on freaking Dr. Evil's. What's his goddamn name? His phone.
Khashoggi?
No.
Jeff Bezos?
Yes. So, yeah, the Saudi prince put that shit on Jeff Bezos' phone.
Wow.
If you can believe that. Or at least that's the claims of Bezos, anyway.
I can guarantee they didn't put it on mine.
So the way that stuff works is it works kind of like similar to a Trojan, as I understand it. You'll get a text message; it'll have a link on it. And I don't know who isn't susceptible to that kind of thing, but I'm not particularly worried about it because I'm not a boomer and I don't click on shit I don't know what it is.
You don't have to click on it. On this Pegasus, you don't have to click on it.
Oh no.
Nope.
Oh, and then they're trying to say now, oh well, it doesn't work on U.S. networks. I'm like, bullshit.
Bullshit.
I bet you it
US
does.
U.S. cell networks are leaky as fuck. Are you kidding me?
I don't know much about it, but I know it sounds like the exact kind of thing I'm not for. So
Yeah, it's pretty scary, and especially, I mean, because it's there's really no good part about it because either you're talking about governments using it to illegally spy on people, and that's never good, or you have non-state actors doing it, and that's probably even worse. Or
I don't know if Israel would sell that. So is that Israeli owned then? I don't know that they'd sell it to just
it's an
hide.
Israeli company, but the thing is that here's the problem though with software. Okay, I can say I'm only going to sell it to certain governments and certain non-state actors, but that doesn't mean that once it's transferred, who knows what happens to it then?
Right. Yeah. I'd imagine that's pretty tightly controlled. Oh my
You
God,
know.
I don't know. Probably not.
But even then, though, even if it's just so-called good actors in states, I mean, it seems to me like having the government having that kind of powers, not too cool.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's a
So,
little bit of an overreach, I would say.
yeah.
Not to make any mention of the programs that we've had going on in this country for a long time. So
Right.
I'm not going to get into that, but it ain't good. So, are you
Joe,
guys
did you
the
see the,
Snowden fans?
No, I am not a fan of Snowden.
He's hard to like, but
So, since last week, have you heard much more, or have you solidified your opinion more about how the Biden administration is working with big tech to censor certain opinions? It might be opinions that are worth censoring. I'm not saying that, but it has to do with disinformation regarding the coronavirus. Do you think that can become a First Amendment issue when the government is getting involved in working with these companies to stop this?
No.
I won't say that it can't become a First Amendment issue, only because this is something that does come up. If a private entity is acting on behest of the government, they in some cases are considered a government agent, in which case then there could in that instance alone, that could end up being a First Amendment issue. And because this comes up sometimes in criminal justice, where sometimes someone acting on the behest of the government does something, in regard to a suspect, and then it potentially taints the evidence, because that if that entity if they're acting on behalf of the government, they now have to follow all the same rules as the government, and if they don't, then that's a violation of the person's civil rights. And it doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened on occasion.
But the First Amendment doesn't give you free reign to say anything you want. Like, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
yeah, you can.
And it's basically the kind of thing that we're talking about here.
It depends on the claims you make. Like, okay, if you make a claim that drinking bleach is going to cure COVID, that's a medical claim that can be easily disproven. In which case, then you can be on the hook because you don't have any evidence to prove that drinking bleach is a positive means for curing COVID. But you think about it. Think of all the people, all the supplement people. They kind of dodge around the claim, and they push all sorts of smoke and mirrors and snake oil and stuff, and they get away with it. So it's. But on the flip side, there is such thing as fraud. So yeah, you're right. There are limits to if you're promoting certain things or dispromoting other things. And I suppose there could even be libel or slander if you put out there, like some of these conspiracy people put that the virus, the vaccine is some intentionally harmful thing. Well, now you could run afoul of slander and or libel laws, because you've made a claim about somebody else's activity and intent. And if you don't have evidence for that, and they are a public figure in certain things, you're causing them harm, then they could sue you.
So I obviously don't like the relationship between the White House and Facebook and social media. I think it does what Joe implied that it does. It changes the relationship, changes what Facebook actually is. It's not acting as a private organization. It's acting as an agency of the government. So it's not about what they are in effect doing, right? Like the kind of content that they are or aren't trying to get control of, but it sets a bad precedent. I don't think that they should be involved in that sort of thing. And people are just going to have to learn to live with disinformation and misinformation. We're going to have to just get better at it on our own and get smarter with it. That's where I stand on it. Jen Psaki was just up there talking about it last week. She's like, coordinated bans across different platforms. Like if you say something really idiotic or stupid on Facebook or Twitter, you in turn get banned on the other one. That's pretty extreme, you know? And there have been a lot of bans and censorship as it pertains to like the Wuhan research lab. Maybe the genesis of this whole thing was there. A lot of people got banned for having conversations about that. Maybe it's not the case. Maybe it is. Who knows? But the idea that a government entity would have any sort of say so to kind of manipulate that conversation in the public is pretty frightening. So
yeah, I mean the precedent that it sets. I mean, an administration in the future. Let's say you have a Republican administration. There might be things that they feel are disinformation, and they might try to use those same powers to, you know,
like climate change. Well, actually, they did with, you know, by basically making it impossible for like the CDC and the United, you know, NOAA and some of the other weather agencies from basically being able to report on climate change or the effect of climate change on health or anything like that.
But the CDC can't even talk about gun violence as a public health issue.
Yeah.
So.
Right. So if you want to not, I would just prefer the government doesn't have that sort of ability or capacity to do that sort of thing. That's where I stand, because none of us would have to worry about it. And if Facebook wants to be politically swayed one way or the next, so be it. But
I mean, I'll say this. I don't think it's out of line if the government says to these platforms, we think you should be exercising editorial control in the same way a television station or a newspaper would, because those other platforms do that, at least to some degree. And, you know, it would be a good thing to do that because, you know, you don't want your platform to be, you know, you shouldn't want your platform to be used to spread things that are demonstrably lies. But there's a difference between saying that in a broad sense versus saying you should target these specific things.
Problem with doing that is you can that's left open to interpretation, and it sounds like a very thuggish, gangsterish way of doing it. Hey, I'm just saying, you know, maybe you ought to, I don't know, police up your content a little bit. I hate to see your social media network get regulated. You know, see, I'm not saying to say it in the context of, you know, suggesting that if you don't, we're going to regulate you. But and the funny part about it is, like, you know, and again, I'm not divorcing what I'm about to say from you and your personal positions. But, you know, we also know that, you know, that the Trumpers also want the social media platforms to be regulated and so forth and so on, which I think is kind of funny because, again, it was like, well, you know, because things were going not in their way. I don't know if is that the popular position with them, because I don't want to get rid of 230. I think that would be dumb.
Well, especially since 230 would have as I mentioned last week, 230 would have the opposite effect.
Right. It would be super dumb. Like if you wanted to actually create your own, or, I mean, the idea that some place like Gab or the Parler or Parlay or whatever they call it, or something like that doesn't have the kind of resources that a Facebook has to have that sort of editorial control, like you're effectively making it impossible to compete with Facebook at that point.
Right, because you could get sued out of existence for
right. It would be really stupid to get rid of that. So I don't know why. If that is the position that they have, it's only because they don't understand it.
Well, and that's really what it comes down to. Really, is Trump didn't understand it. He complained about that, and then of course his followers all jumped on that same bandwagon because they don't understand it any better than he did. He said it, so that was good enough for them.
Right.
Well, there have been attempts to by some people to try to revamp it. What is it? Reimagine 230. And I'm trying to remember, man, who is it? Who is the unpopular female candidate? Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard was pushing for something for a way of revamping 230, and it was interesting.
Yeah,
I just wish I could remember specifics at this time, but
there might be something in between those two. I mean, clearly we're not in the best place, and there might be something that could be done. I don't know what it is, but I know Mike. We were talking back a few weeks ago, maybe even a couple of months ago. He had the suggestion about controls on personal information, kind of treating information on social media in a similar way to the like medical records. I thought that could help a little bit, but I also I think that maybe it's just controlled at scale. I think like once you have demonstrated a certain number of users or a certain number of income as an entity, maybe the rules apply to you different to allow people to at least create startups that compete with these entities. But I don't really have the answers. I know that we're not in a good spot with it right now, though. That's for sure.
No, although it's really funny. Like I said, it got hilarious when you got people, mostly Trumpers. I'm not going to say conservatives. We had Trumpers going out there saying that we should basically use the antitrust laws on big tech, and then like, oh really, you want us to enforce antitrust laws? And like the left is like, hey, let's do it. Let's go right ahead. We're all for it. Yay.
Yeah, like the actual left would probably be on board with that kind of thing because I mean
for different reasons, but they definitely be on board.
Well, the kind of prevailing narrative, like conservatives get this confused, that they promote on social media networks and the news and all the rest of it, is not the left's message, right? You're talking about this establishment, neoliberal, like people, I don't know. It's not promoting their values, or it's not favoring them either, right? So. Just saying.
Yeah.
It's very sort of establishment, promote the status quo of things sort of material.
I mean, well, although to me, when I hear establishment, see, I always try to remind people the purpose of campaigns and elections is to remake the establishment to become the new establishment. That's the thing, that's the hard part about someone who tries to run as an outsider. Like you're an outsider until you're in, and once you're in, you can't run as an outsider anymore. So you kind of lose your mojo from that perspective, because you literally cannot. If you're in now, you have to say, no, we're the new in, and we're better than the old in. And here's what we're going to do differently than the old
in. Where you been, Mike? You're late. Is that ice cream?
Dairy Queen.
It looks like Dairy Queen, yeah.
Well, they had me take over for you, so I've been here talking nothing but social justice the entire time. Super hard.
Fucking liar. I was in the truck and I could tune in a couple times. No, you were not.
We had a big fight about Bitcoin. It was
right. I was talking about inflation and Bitcoin, and I was promoting the social justice.
Trying to boil a frog slowly by getting Joe to buy a couple more guns. That's what I.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, the funny thing about guns, we started talking about it before. Like, I fired a gun a few times. It's fun. I like tanks and planes and shit. So, I like really big artillery pieces, and but I just
You're just not a big gun guy, but you're from New Jersey, so it's not
Yeah.
the same. You're like, you know.
Well, that's the thing. I was always point out to people, like the laws in New Jersey make sense for New Jersey. Like you can't hunt with a rifle here because a 30-06 or something like that's going to travel what, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. If you miss, that's in somebody's house. So it's shotguns or bows, and the handgun limitations. They're not to prevent people from having handguns. They're to prevent trafficking, because you only get 2 permits per month. So even if you save them up, and I think the most you can stockpile is like 8. So
are you able to carry those handguns concealed and all that in New Jersey?
with the right licensing, but it is difficult to get. Like if you're in law enforcement, if you're a doctor, if you're a judge or something like that, a lawyer, then it's a lot easier for the average everyday person. Unless you're ex-military or an ex-cop, it's unlikely.
What does a doctor need with a gun?
They carry drugs sometimes.
Okay.
I mean,
the legal kind of drug dealer.
The legal kind of drugs, yes.
They are like drug dealers, though, aren't they? Tell you what.
Some of them.
But still, I mean, why would you want to prohibit the ability or limit who can? I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a process or a test or an exam or training or whatever, but
I'll tell you why. A former friend of mine, and he got lots of guns, and we were going to go out one night, and we went to Stone Pony actually, and he was thinking about packing, even though it was illegal, and I convinced him not to. And then we went out to the club. He got kicked out, and he wanted me to drive him home so he could go get a gun and then drive him back. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You're going to make me accessory to fucking premeditated murder? What the fuck is wrong with you? Because you got kicked out of a bar? That's why. Because people, when they get hot heads and they have weapons, bad shit happens. I mean, that's the thing. If you look in the states like Texas, I love arguing with this shit about with Texans, because they are all like, oh well, if there's crime goes down when you have people carrying. Well, if you look at when their law went into effect, violent crime skyrocketed, and their violent crime they have a worse per capita violent crime than New Jersey across the board ever since. So it's not, and then they try to say, oh well, drugs and stuff. Well, we had drug dealers here, we had drug cartels here in New Jersey too, and we got the mob and multiple mobs. So it's just look, if people want to have guns, they like guns, great, but it doesn't have the deterrent effect that people want to say. Just say, hey, I like guns. I accept that argument.
I like guns.
There you go.
I do. I like them. I think they're neat. And so, what are you going to do?
Well, like I said, I think, they're fun to shoot, and certain types of guns are certainly interesting. And, hey, actually, if I had the space for it, I would own a tank right now.
Sure. Because it's awesome. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, I like all of it. I like explosives. I like guns. I like all of it. I mean, how do you not?
When you said about explosives, you just made me think of that scene in The Dark Knight. I have simple taste. I like gunpowder and explosives and gasoline.
yeah, I do. I like all of it. I don't know how anybody could not. Like, in fact, for some of you're on my Facebook, you can see me rigging up some C4 and all sorts of stuff. And I have a ball with I really like explosives. I like all that stuff. It's pretty fun.
Hey, I'm a chemical engineer. When I was in college, I spent much of my first semester trying to get all the stuff together to make TNT.
That's dangerous. Yeah. I don't know much about homemade stuff or official stuff, how to make it. I just know how to I just know how to make it go boom. So
You know,
yeah.
I mean, it's basically for me, I guess I would feel better if we had a better process to vetting people.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not against that. I mean, I can see the need for that for sure.
You know?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think mostly what I can't stand is the lack of accountability against people and parents that don't secure their firearms with a kid, right, or somebody that has access to weapons they ought not have access to. That's my big beef with weapons.
Yeah.
But practically, I mean, I like guns, so the more the merrier, I say.
Vegas, you suck at being a conservative today. I'll carry the mantle for you. Joe, what if the rules that we passed that restrict guns restrict you from having the guns?
Yeah. Why do you think I want restrictions? I once told that same friend that I was talking about before. I'm like, I'm the reason why I want there to be strong gun laws. I don't want people like me to have a gun too.
What's wrong with like you, Joe?
You go postal?
No, I'm more of self-inflicted, but
Yeah. So that's a big problem. That's the biggest, I think, number killer in our country when it comes to guns. Is most of them, or they call it homicide, but it's really suicide, right? So
yeah, over 10,000 a year.
yeah, that's a thing. But at the same time, I suppose if somebody wants to go out, that's the way to go out. So,
well, see, the thing is, I mean, I guess the biggest trouble is that, like, right. So it's very final, right? If you overdose on something, somebody might find you and save you, or
right.
you try something else. There may be a way to save you, but yeah, you do that, and you're pretty much going to be done. Very few people survive a suicide attempt with a gun.
Sure.
And usually because they did it wrong, in which case then they're so fucked up, they're really regretting that they didn't do it the right way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I just don't count that as being a fair statistic of against gun ownership, because I don't like how that would get tallied up into homicide. I think it's kind of a shitty way to look at it.
I don't mean to be silent. It's just I want to open my mouth, but then I have to always think, am I breaking someone's confidentiality here, even in death?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not against gun ownership in the broad sense, but I think so. What's happened here in the U.S. as the gun people have gotten more and more radical, it's become the worship of the gun as a solution to every problem. And if all you have is a gun, every problem looks like a target.
I don't know that I agree with that. And I think the most I've seen them do was sort of the Schadenfreude of the couple blocks, Chaz down in Seattle. When the shit hit the fan in a couple, quite a few places across the country, and mostly more lefty leaning areas, I think a lot of those folks were that were previously sort of really anti-gun, and see how bad things can get so quickly, and they might sort of get why you'd want to have something like that.
Yeah, see, Chaz and Chaz/Chop didn't make me get more favorable toward guns.
No, but it didn't happen at your doorstep, right?
It also wasn't what people think it was. It wasn't even near what the news made it out to be.
I saw it on my Facebook news feed, Raven.
And my friends were there. and telling me this is nothing happening here.
It
This
was
is
the
like,
entire city of Seattle, I swear.
yeah, I know. I mean, it's ridiculous. It was like they're like, we ever been to a big party and then the party's over and there's people milling around drunk? That's what Chaz is.
Sure,
That's what's happening.
sure, but I don't undersell it either. I think there's some folks that probably walked away that were pretty terrified out of some of the things that happened across the country that probably
There are a lot of
wanted to.
people that walked away that were terrified because the news told them to be. There's like
Sure.
the police on Capitol Hill there in Seattle, the police station. The police abandoned that on purpose, saying that it was going to end up being overrun and destroyed, and it wasn't. They
Right.
just kind of barricaded around it and had a party behind the barricades. And then suddenly there were stories of people roaming the streets with guns and shooting people, and that just wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. It was bullshit. It was a lie. It was propaganda designed to make people on the right be afraid of the crazy lefties and Antifa and BLM. It was all bullshit.
Well, especially around the same time, I recall too. There was they actually showed it was I don't remember what type of armored vehicle it was, but it was some police armored vehicle, basically going around and they were basically shooting beanbags and grenades at people, and like there's somebody on their porch and they're like, "Get in your fucking house!" And the person's just like, "I'm just filming it," and they're getting shot at, and it's like by the police.
I remember seeing that. That was
Yeah.
pretty,
and that's the thing. And basically, what I pointed out
that was for the curfew. Right?
Yeah. But the thing is that basically, as I pointed out, when the police came dressed for war, there was war. When the police took a hands-off attitude, things were peaceful.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do not care for the militarization of the cops. Like we got this in my town here. I've seen this mobile command center tank-looking thing, and it's like. And I'm not saying that there's not a need for SWAT and there's not some special units. That the idea that you would have what amounts to a soldier, it's like this is just not good.
Yeah,
It's like a
good.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. And apparently, like the number of tactical engagements where they show up with the tactical team, the tactical deployment has gone up by like a ridiculous factor. Again, I don't remember the number, so I'm not going to make them up. But it was a ridiculous escalation. And whereas they used to just, like you say, on the serve a warrant, they used to just like knock on your door and say, "Hey, we got to," unless the person was like, a drug kingpin, known violent person. For most people, they would just knock on your door and say, "Hey, we've got a warrant for your arrest," blah blah blah. Where it was just like, and now they're doing these no-knock raids in the middle of the night,
Right. So by the time they leave the police station till the time they show up at your house to do work, it is they get into a mindset that would be like a Marine or a soldier working in Fallujah, Iraq, right? Like they take on a mindset of an occupying force, like I have to save my own life in this situation. Right. And I'm not sure what the right way to balance all of that out is. I'm not going to undersell the danger that cops do go through. It can be dangerous work, but I think they're oversensitized to the danger.
I live in New Jersey, and New Jersey is, I mean, not the area I live in, but most of the state is urban. There's like a swath, big giant swath through the state where it's city after city after city that starts at basically at New York City and goes all the way to Philadelphia, where it's just solid urban area. There's not a single fucking bird or tree in that entire stretch. All right, so this is the state that I live in. I know of more pizza delivery guys who have been killed than cops.
Right.
So, I mean, I the whole dangerous job thing, I don't buy into that. I used to, but I don't anymore.
Yeah, basically the statistics show that in any given year, there are 50 to 60 cops that get killed by perpetrators. There's another 50 to 60 to die on the job due to either friendly fire or heart attacks or getting hit by a bus or whatever. But in the line of duty, 50 to 60 to die, which that's 60 too many. But on the flip side, That's out of 750,000 cops. It's actually way
Sure.
more dangerous to be an electrician.
Sure. Yeah, that's a fair point if those are the numbers. And I mean, I'm not gonna. So like if I go to anywhere in Europe, if I'm in Germany, I was in Germany a couple years back, right? If I'm there, you can see the police interaction is different, right? They don't have an inbuilt fear of everybody that they encounter, just because I don't know where the mentality comes from across in our country, like, but yeah, having every interaction seem like it's a potentially life or death situation probably isn't
But
helpful.
they're trained that way.
Well, they're trained that way. Some of them go to a class that's called philology.
Philology, yeah.
But the other thing about too, and here's the irony of it. So the people that feel that okay, we should all be armed and stuff like that, that helps feed the cops' narrative that hey, anybody could be armed and shoot and blow me away because everyone's running around with weapons. Now, is that a fair narrative? No, but that feeds into their mindset.
Maybe you guys in New Jersey just need to be a little bit less finicky about your pizza.
Right.
No,
Pizza in the world.
you deliver the pizza, the pizza badly, and it's gonna go badly for you. Well,
So I've been looking at all these social movements over the years, and I feel like each one teaches another year of high school seniors how to be a protester. And every year we lose some information that they maybe had in the 60s that we have to relearn or readapt, right? 10 years ago, during the Occupy movement, when people were being evicted, they would come to the Occupy protests and actually get Occupy protesters to camp in their front yard, right? To stop the eviction. They would just basically invite the protest to their front yard. Flyers would get passed out a week in advance, right? And this actually worked. I can think of like 4 different houses that were saved. So like next week when we're doing this show, the day after that, there's going to be a whole bunch of motherfuckers who need some Occupy protesters there to sit in their front yard and keep the eviction from happening. The first wave, probably it's not going to happen. But when they're all homeless downtown collecting and they all want to prevent somebody from losing their home, it might actually re-happen again because 10 years is not long enough for us to forget, oh, hey, wait, how did we prevent the evictions from happening before? Camp out in people's front yard. Make it so the police are afraid to come to the address. And that's what they did.
Yep.
And I'm betting that that's going to happen in about 3 weeks.
I was just looking here in New Jersey. Now, mind you, this number I'm about to give you, this is for the history of New Jersey since they've been keeping statistics. There's been a total of all, and this is counting combat and non-combat deaths, if I can call it that way, 523 deaths of police officers in the line of duty. 5 of them to 9/11 illnesses, 74 to automobile crashes, which is actually a big percentage, 160 to gunfire, 12 to inadvertent gunfire, which basically means friendly fire, 37 heart attacks, 62 motorcycle crashes, which I'm guessing those were probably earlier in the days when there were more motorcycle cops. Struck by vehicles, 30, struck by train, 9. So this is in the history of New Jersey wildly kept statistics, 523. That's more people died today in car accidents. And that's the history of New Jersey.
9 were hit by a train.
9 were hit by a train. 7 drowned. 5 were electrocuted. 2 died in explosions. 3 died from exposure to toxins. 6 falls. 3 fires.
How do you record? Electrocuted?
Electrocuted. One by hypothermia. 14 of them were stabbed. 3 struck by streetcars. So that shit was a long time ago. Not too much danger of that stat going up.
Right.
So vehicle pursuit 16, vehicular assault 22. So I'm assuming that's people ramming a police car because otherwise that would have been struck by vehicle, and that means that automobile crash means single vehicle accident, or at least not struck intentionally anyway by another vehicle, because that's vehicular assault. So it's just it's not to say there's certain beats that are particularly dangerous. I wouldn't want to be a cop in Camden. I wouldn't want to be a cop in Trenton. But most. I wouldn't want to be cop in Patterson either.
I don't even think there are any good cops in Patterson. It's probably the most corrupt police force in the fucking state.
Yeah.
Could you please not say these things? We need you to run for office. Like, please, just run it by the team first when you want to talk about police officers in certain cities in New Jersey.
That would actually get me votes here.
They're going to be your constituents one day.
Not Patterson.
So the only cop to die in my current town died February 12th, 1954.
Since you're doing the research, how many have died in Sussex County? Probably 0.
They're unfortunately not doing it by county. They're doing it by town.
Can you do it by zip code?
No.
Just do it by Vernon then.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, Vernon.
0.
Yeah, none listed. None listed. And let me check my hometown where I grew up. Let's see if that's on here.
Kind of feel bad for the cops in my town. We only have one Dunkin' Donuts, and it's right by the cop shop. They can't really go there.
Yeah. So my hometown, one cop that died in the line of duty, and he died of COVID-19.
In the line of duty.
That's what they counted it.
That doesn't bode well. Wasn't that the whole argument about misconstrued COVID-19 statistics like that?
Seriously. Mm-hmm.
What if you put the cuffs on somebody and they turn around and cough?
Yeah, he licked on them.
I would call that misconstrued cop death by in the line of duty. So actually, the real number could be 522.
Yeah, that's a little strange. I actually am curious to figure that out now. Like, how do you die in the line of duty from COVID-19?
That is an excellent question.
Like that your tally would like that isn't a line item. COVID-19 deaths, 1. Like,
well, we have.
Yeah, then actually the total for the state, 13 cops died of COVID-19, somehow counting in the line of duty. I guess you're saying you were on the job and you got exposed on the job. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah,
probably.
They were prioritized in the rollout of the vaccine.
Yeah, I guess when I think of in the line of duty, right, I think of not that.
Right. I agree with you there. You're thinking like you're actually on the job and on the beat, and
right. I'm at the hot dog stand. I'm on my break. I'm eating my donut, and then I'll whatever. And then somebody comes and does a drive-by. That would be. I would tally that up as in the line of duty.
A COVID drive-by.
Right, a COVID drive-by. Seems a little weird.
Yeah, I dropped it in both the open chat and the private chat if anybody actually wants to look at the numbers.
Joe, what was with the late start today?
Was that? Oh, I didn't realize what time it was. So I had my RPG game earlier in the day, and then my friend Steve stopped by, and we ended. He had never seen Galaxy Quest, So we ended up putting Galaxy Quest on, and then the movie was over, and we were BSing, and then I was like, "Oh shit, it's after 9:00."
Where's Steve?
Steve, well, my friend, well, he left. He's gone now.
Oh, we could have met him.
Yeah. He's I originally met him from doing our strategy games and tactical games like Starfleet Battles and Federation and Empire and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But
I would have picked on Kazoom. Can I pick on Kazoom?
Okay.
we all do.
You sound like you're going more and more left these days, Kazoom. I don't want you to. I want you to stay closer to the middle, like normal people. Why are you going so far left, bud?
Because of what I'm seeing creeping on the right. That's why I'm going more to the left. Also, the fact that just so much of why I was more to the right was because I was sort of playing the role of Dave Rubin. I was.
I like Dave Rubin. I'm kidding. I'm messing with you.
So, yeah, I've definitely moved more to the left, but I still on some of those I'm still to the right when it comes to gun control.
Sure.
But and I'm still. I still I believe very strongly in not just the law side of freedom of speech, but I do believe in it as a concept. And I think it's important to if we're going to stop bad information, we can't stop people from talking about the way that these platforms are being censored with automated stuff. People can't even talk against those that are saying bullshit disinformation because you'll get flagged by the system because, well, you're just mentioning those words. So, you can't even speak against like if I went on BitChute and found some, it's easy to find some crazy person saying something, and I made a video response against them, my video could be flagged for promoting the things that that are in the video that I'm speaking against. So, yeah. And so these things, that these ways that this stuff is being censored, it's causing there to be more bubbles of information. What is the word I'm trying to find?
More extreme bubbles or something like that.
Yeah, because when people aren't even if people don't even know about some of these arguments that people are making on the right, then they don't know even what to argue, that there's even anything to argue against. And the same thing with all the people that are kicked off these big platforms.
Yep.
They're in a bubble too, because no one is going to challenge their views on those platforms.
I went and I got a text message from more conservative Republican conspiracy theorist person I know a couple days ago. I actually sent it to Mike, his agent out there, and it was a whole website of it's like everything that you would never capture on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. It was like the BitChute, but like a news website or a blog style news website. And it was a parallel dimension. And I have to attribute it, like, I'm hoping that it's a bunch of fake engagement, but when I look through the comments and I see hundreds of comments, thousands of upvotes, and all this other kind of stuff, people commenting back and forth. And like the headline was here, I'll just, it's crazy shit. Like, it's, when I say it's an alternate reality, I mean, like, it's like a totally alternate reality. This person got arrested and they're sentenced to death by military tribunal. And, I'm like, it's like, what the fuck are you even, like, this is not real. And yeah, because when they can't be part of the conversation, like, they go fucking crazy. So that I feel
and they keep going further and further down the crazy rabbit hole. Yep. I mean, there are some rabbit holes that almost make some sense, but some of this stuff it's just crazy rabbit hole. It's just nuts. People saying just things that are just easily provable against what they're saying.
It's batshit.
And if you mention any of it, well, you're just part of the fake news or whatever new label they have for anyone who disagrees with them.
God, so what was that website, Mike, I sent to you? It was like realrawnews.com. I'm pulling it up right now. Military indicts.
Head out of the gutter. Real raw news.
Right. So here's like one of the top articles. July 18th. Rumsfeld committed suicide at military tribunal. Did not die of natural causes.
Yeah.
You know, military convicts Susan Rice of treason. So you click on it, like 655 comments. Like, what are they talking about?
News stories like Trump is actually still the president, but they're just letting Biden pretend for the rest of the world. You know,
Top comment with 120 upvotes. Another one down. How do you, so like, if this is real, how do you not feel bad? Like, I don't know.
Feel bad about what?
I was just talking about this website I stumbled across that is a parallel dimension, and a lot of people on there that are delusional.
I was actually just joking. The top story right now is U.S. military holding White House for Trump's return.
Right. There you go.
Holy shit. Like that's the latest story.
Right. So like how, but is it real though, right? Like I'm talking about the engagement on this website. So 6,900 views, 700 comments. I mean,
If you go on BitChute and you look at the videos that have similar titles to that,
right. And so this is like
these people can go on for like 2 hours about this stuff, and the people who listen to it just buy into all of it. You go to the comment section, they're genuine engagements, and these people buy into this shit.
I'm genuinely concerned that this is almost like
Cult?
yeah, but not that, but like a hysteria, if that's even allowed to be used these days. But it sort of like is an actual mental health problem, like a massive, like this is not real, right? I mean, how could anybody look at this and say, yes, I heard about this, I agree. I don't know.
It's the ultimate wishful thinking.
Yeah. Have you seen this? All right, so the website, if you wanted to check it out, was realrawnews.com, and it's like, but the concerning thing was this was sent to me, like one of the articles was sent to me by someone I know, you know, like, and I just had to tell him, I'm like, this is not real. You know that, right?
I'm looking down the list of their headlines, and there's a whole bunch of convictions. Military tribunal,
right?
Bill Clinton,
right. It's a whole alternate reality.
James Comey loses his head to the guillotine. I wish I was joking. That's
I know
30th.
I know.
Which, of course, as a civilian, he couldn't be tried by a military tribunal anyway. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I don't know what to say. But yeah, so this thing, when I saw it, reminded me of the trending section of BitChute, you know, where that's a whole fucking, that's a bus on its way to crazy town as well. Like there's just so much batshit stuff on there. And I mean, some of it's okay, I suppose, but I don't know.
Well, that's why I object when people try to do the both sides are the same crap. I'm like,
well, I don't classify this as a side. This is something, I don't know what this is.
Well, I mean, it
Well, the fact
it is 99.999% of the people pushing this stuff are on the right.
Okay, but
I mean,
yeah,
I'm not saying that all people on the right are that. I'm obviously not saying that, but
And
the very large majority of the people pushing this stuff are most definitely not on the left.
sure.
And during the Trump presidency, a lot of this kind of stuff bubbled up into the White House, and these were the kinds of things that was fueling Trump's insanity.
Well, think about the stuff that we've had elected officials say, even after the election, the ones that have been arguing that the election was stolen, blah blah blah. Some of them have bought into this, Trump's coming back any day now too crap.
So do you
These are
not
elected
think?
officials.
Do you not think though that the censorship, like the blowback from this, cultivates these kind of environments where they're not receiving the kind of engagement that keeps them from going on the crazy train?
They were doing this before, though.
What's that?
They were doing this before, though.
Yeah. I mean, Alex Jones and all that, that's not new.
Sure.
The
Seems
issue-
like it's more prevalent these days.
Oh, definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
The issue has been cutting back on education for decades. It's just getting worse and worse. We have a very poorly educated populace. I know.
Well, remember, too, the other reason why we're noticing it more is not because of the censorship. It's because prior to January 6th, we kind of put all those people in a box and said, they're just wing nuts. And they're generally, we don't need to worry about them because they're just like out there. No one takes them seriously. And then January 6th happened. And so now we're paying a lot more attention than we ever did.
Yeah, it's this would be the kind of thing I would expect someone that would have stormed the Capitol. This is the kind of content I would expect them to consume. Like, it's almost, when I look at this kind of thing, I visualize it all. It's almost like a different nation state actor could have set something up like this, just for the purposes of disinformation. That's how I visualize.
And I don't dismiss that as a potential source for it in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just maybe this site, but I mean, I'm just looking at one of what's probably many different places, like we mentioned, BitChute. I've looked on Gab. Gab can be pretty bad at times. I don't visit there ever. I'm not a Twitter user either, but.
And then there's Parlor and there's Minds.
Right.
But I mean, think about how. Trying to interrupt you because think about how much like someone like Russia benefits for this stuff being out there.
So I agree with that. One of the most irritating things is at some point we stopped. Well, one side, and bizarrely, it's kind of weird because you would expect if anyone would acknowledge an adversarial relationship with Russia, it would be the right. But it's not. Right now, it's the liberals that recognize that, and it's kind of weird because I don't know why we wouldn't treat Russia not poorly, but with or carefully, I should say. That's a person, that's an entity with a long history of in an adversarial relationship with us. I don't know why. I don't know why we would view it any other way.
Right.
Parlor's still down.
Is it really?
Still.
So when did it go down?
Oh, a long time ago.
Oh, okay. It's still down from that. Okay.
Yeah. And it's once something like that happens, all the rats leave the sinking ship really quickly and find somewhere else to go. I mean, even if they were to be allowed back on Amazon Web Services, they'd still have suffered this loss of momentum to their popularity. every rat that I saw leaving Parlor was saying, meet up on this Telegram group.
So I wonder how much just January 6th derailed that momentum on its own. Like I think people, I mean, when shit gets real, you know, like that probably has an effect, I would think.
Hey, just want to say real quick, the Parlor website works still. I was able to log in and see a feed. So
Okay.
Maybe you have the old app. Sorry for the cough. It's my COVID. I don't have COVID.
Yeah, I mean,
and there's this newer one called Gitter, and it's really bad. It doesn't even have. There is no notification section. And they're like, oh, free speech. Yeah, you can't even have. How can you have a conversation when there's no notification?
I don't know. I'm old school internet. I started off on this website called Something Awful and migrated to 4chan. And I'm an evil person, and I understand that. But I think there's less vitriol on the underbelly of the internet than there are on some of these other things. And that's saying something. So there you go. It's some of this stuff's pretty scary, straight up. Like it's not scary as in they're calling for action, but just how they can perceive reality. So many of them and share this whole, like people on 4chan at least know, or at least seem to know, that what they're talking about is LARPing and bullshit, right? Like there's a difference. This is something else. I don't know. This is worse than before, I think. Anyway.
You know, the thing is, what gets me about the people who think that Trump's coming back any day now, is that they kind of remind me of the Nibiru people from back.
Yeah,
like,
the 2012,
right.
Yeah.
And then when that didn't happen, then there was a new date, and then that didn't happen, and then there was another new date, and then the fucked apart. There's still people out there still trying to pimp this shit 9 years later. Actually 10, because it really started cropping up in 2011.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I don't know if it started at 2011 or before that, but that's actually a good way of looking at it. It does have that same sort of feel about it, like just a bunch of. I mean, you know what? I think it was before that, because it was like Y2K was going to be the end of the world. You remember that?
Oh God, yeah. Because actually, I had to deal with that as part of my job.
Right.
And what was really funny is I got kind of got my tit in the ringer a little bit, because somebody in IT in the company I was working in at the time sent out this email that said, don't test your we're going through the computers, we're testing everything. Don't test your own computer by changing the date, because it might shut off and never come on again. I'm like, and I did a reply all like, yeah, that's physically not possible. Please stop spreading disinformation. And then somebody got pissed off at me because well, don't fucking send bullshit emails out to people and spread more hysteria when you're supposed to be the experts. You're supposed to know better.
Yeah. Yeah. It follows that same trend. It's that apocalyptic doomsday thing, I guess. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, I think the problem is with conspiracies in general. It's not that conspiracies never ever happen, but it's a lot of people who kind of glom onto every conspiracy they can find. It's this idea of like, you've got secret knowledge that other people don't have, and you're in the know, and everyone else are just fools and cheap, but you know better.
No, I don't know. Like for me, what I recognize in it is, and I think it's a valid point. Like you can get mad at these people, but I don't. I'm like not upset with them, because I look at them like victims, frankly, and it comes from a very deep-seated distrust. Like that we have lost distrust in all of our institutions, and we've lost distrust in our media class, and so I don't know. I don't really fault them, because like they don't know what to believe. And frankly, I don't know what to believe when I'm watching this shit. like, who
When,
knows?
I mean,
You
so,
know,
so
like I got the
when-
news talking about the UFOs for like 3 hours yesterday. It's like, fucking who knows? You know?
when W was
there was-
president, there was all of the talk about FEMA camps,
Right.
and
Right.
that the government was going to line people up and kill them, and they had all the plastic coffins that were all set for everyone. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but we used to have more trust in this. Wasn't. I mean, it's gotten bad, and we didn't even notice it happening.
well, the thing is, there's moneyed interests in making people distrust,
Sure.
and that constant, and the thing is, of course, it's very easy to sow distrust because look, nobody gets it right all the time, right? So, if you just say, okay, you're a big corporation and you don't want people to trust that climate change is real, and you don't want them to believe that pollution is a real problem. And you just point out, the occasional time when scientists got it wrong, and you just keep beating that drum and making them disbelieve that science can be reliable. Then you can go off and keep, making money, poisoning the atmosphere and fucking up the planet.
Sure, but like from a government and like an institution perspective, like they don't do themselves any favors. Like when they go to the Iraq War, for example, when they base their foreign policy on shit people don't understand, when they just the way the Federal Reserve operates, like not knowing or having a steady set interest rate, like they make it almost impossible to trust them in some ways. And so I get why people just stop listening and paying attention and just feel like they're going to go off and join their own little, this will be our truth. We'll figure out what to believe in ourselves. That's what this seems to be.
Well, and that's it. Well, that's another big problem too. This idea of like, your truth and my truth, and it's like,
right. Yeah, exactly. That's some dumbass shit right there.
I mean, so much of this has come up though since Trump, and Trump basically saying all this stuff is fake news, and then you had, what's her face, who looks, I don't want to make fun of her appearance. She's blonde, she's older, and she said, what was it about alternate truth, alternate facts? That was it.
Oh, Billy and Conway.
And that's when a lot of this shit really started to skyrocket.
Right.
Well, here's the thing, though, and I agree with you. Although the whole thing with the reason why fake news worked is that the audience was already primed to believe that things were fake news.
Right.
years of Alex Jones.
Right. And people like him.
Yeah. And turning the freaking frogs gay.
And that's what gets you about him and all some of these other conspiracy nuts. Like, okay, again, conspiracies can happen, but the people who engage in them when they happen at least perceive that there's some benefit in whatever they're doing, right? That they're doing this for some gain, at least perceived gain. They may be wrong, but they perceive that there's some gain. But there's some of these proposed, conspiracies that are so ridiculous. And it's like the whole flat Earth thing. Like, well, why would government and most religions and most, scientists and most this and most that come up with this elaborate hoax to convince us that the Earth was a globe if it was a disc? Like, what's the perceived benefit from doing that? And they never have a good answer.
Money.
Yeah, but it's kind of like the underpants gnomes, right? It's like, lie about the shape of the Earth? ? Profit.
Well, they get money because they get clicks, they get views.
There can't be that much money in that, right? Right.
Well, I mean, how about all the people that, I mean, I'd say 25% of the people who are highly against getting the vaccine actually believe some of the shit that these sites are saying, that the vaccine is actually a plot to kill most of the population of the planet.
There are people that believe it. They absolutely believe it.
Yeah.
And then there's things like I can't remember now. It's the vaccine the vaccine injury list. But that's not monitored. Like anybody can go on there and make a claim, and nobody goes through there and debunks anything. It's just there.
Right.
It's like it's not a thing that's regulated at all. And then other people go back and they see, oh wow, somebody got the COVID vaccine and they grew a head out of their ass. I'm not taking that.
Well, and that's the thing, my wife, when she first went from home health into pharma, that was her job actually, was to catalog serious adverse events for drug trials.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, you literally have to report everything, even like, okay, someone was taking the drug and they got hit by a bus. You still have, that still goes down as a
That counts.
event.
That counts. Yeah.
It still counts, even though, because, we can't prove that it wasn't, that it wasn't related to some effect of the drug that got them to be in front of a bus. But there's no evidence that it was, but we have to catalog it just in case. That's why, like, some of the times when people get off about, big pharma and they say all this stuff about pharma, I'm like, having both first, second, and third hand, first and second hand knowledge with the FDA and drug companies. I'm like, yeah, you motherfuckers don't know what you're talking about. Not that they're all squeaky clean either. The pharma companies, but the process works a lot differently than the average person thinks. Like one of the things that I remember came up was the whole thing about Vioxx. Somebody yesterday I was dealing with, they were saying like, oh, they're hiding information. No, they have to report all this shit. Usually if there's hiding of information, it's usually not the mainstream pharma companies. It's like the venture capitals, like the Martin Shkreli's of the world, who basically buy up an existing drug, come up with a new indication for it, jack up the price to something ridiculous. And they basically they're non-compliant with their reporting. But, again, for the most part, companies like Merck and Schering Plough. Well, Schering Plough doesn't exist anymore, but they're Merck now too, and GlaxoSmithKline, Bristol Myers Squibb, and so forth. That's not usually what you're seeing out of them, and those people are actually working to try to make drugs to help people. You could get into their cost models and all that. You can have some legitimate criticisms there, but generally speaking, the people that are doing the research are not sinister people. But
I don't know what the path is to get back to institutional trust, like across both sides. I feel like this isn't unique to the right, by the way. I feel like if Donald Trump was in power right now, this would all be a lot more complicated with COVID. I don't know what the way ahead is on that, but I do think that's what it is. I think that people like my father and they just refuse. People will just refuse to believe that the establishment or the other side is operating in good faith. It's just like they're all out. I don't know how to explain it. It's just bad. It's really bad.
Well, here's what I'm wondering, because Delta seems to be more communicable than the Alpha or Beta variants.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, so far, it seems that the vaccines are working against Delta. So most of the new cases and most of the deaths are non-vaccinated people. So maybe Delta will just kill off a lot of these motherfuckers.
Well,
they don't have the same concerns that you do, though. In fact, I think that they're. I was talking to Mike about this a few days ago. I think that, frankly, the actual right, salivates for lockdowns and draconian bullshit. I really do. I really think it doesn't matter whether or not you're right or wrong about what is or isn't going to happen with the number of cases or number of deaths. I think that I think it's so cynical, and I really do think that they're going to bait you into it.
Well, especially I think you're right. The other advantage is that it kind of cuts both ways. They can do draconian shit if they want to, and on the flip side, they can blame a lot of it on the left. and then get people riled up in that direction.
Yep, and it works, and it will work. I'm just telling you, the right's not dumb, believe it or not.
Well, I think some on the right aren't patient enough, maybe for that. Maybe care for human life a little bit more. Like the governor of Alabama saying flat out to the news that it's time for us to start blaming the unvaccinated. And she's a Republican governor.
Sure.
And she's giving all the sound bites to basically diffuse that.
Well, maybe the GOP will start pivoting and taking that kind of stance. It's possible, but in my mind, it's out there hanging there. If I'm like some sort of crazy political operative that worked for the right, I would be pumping up Delta. I would be making people scared. I'd say, "Come, fucking yes, lock it down, because." They're not in your headspace. They don't share your mindset or concerns about this sort of thing. This is sort of a way that I could capitalize on against you for killing the economy, for I could easily come up with a laundry list of things to make you look bad on this. So that's not to say whether or not we should or shouldn't. It's just something I recognize about this sort of stuff. Anyway.
It's almost as though politicians are always thinking about how is this going to help me politically?
Right.
So I feel like Ron DeSantis, who I think you favor for the nomination in 2024.
I don't favor, I recognize.
You recognize? I think he just shot himself in the foot with a little speech that he said, they're trying to put a muzzle on my 3-year-old when he's talking about masks.
It ain't gonna matter.
I mean, sound bites like that are gonna haunt people.
No, they're not.
All the time.
No, they're not. So you again are thinking in a way that if this happened to Hillary Clinton on your side, how you would think and how you would react. This isn't how this works for the other side.
Right.
And so
I recognize that after grab them by the pussy, nothing shocks people on the right to not vote for.
Well, it's just it's not the same.
It's not even about that. It's not. It's about winning, and it doesn't matter if you're right, and it doesn't matter what you say. The entire idea is to stop the other side. Yeah. So this is why I told you, Vegas. I told you the other day that one of my favorite books is the Bitter Butter Battle. Because that's exactly why. It isn't about anything that makes any sense outside of just defeating the other side.
Sure, and then don't pretend that the left doesn't employ its own strategies. Democrats broadly, that it doesn't have its own purpose.
But the rank and file care about issues. And if somebody on the left who's in a position of power goes like this in front of somebody who's sleeping on an airplane, they got to leave their fucking job.
Yes.
If somebody on the left gets caught with a gay prostitute doing coke, they got to leave their job.
Well, yeah.
If somebody on the left gets convicted of a crime, they have to leave their job.
Hell,
our side doesn't follow those rules.
Well, Raven, if someone on the left has a threesome, a consensual threesome,
they have to leave. The right doesn't follow those rules. The other side doesn't give a shit about that.
Well,
because at the end of the day,
if it's egregious enough, I think they.
Well, the funny thing, but only what happens is, and this is what I had said about Trump, way back. I was like, the Republicans will stick with him as long as they don't perceive him as a liability, and that's basically
he's not going to run. And so it's like, I keep hearing you guys and I can't obviously say that. I can't read the future, but in my brain, which is on the right side of this, I don't view Donald Trump as doing anything. Donald Trump is a full he's a fullback for DeSantis. Okay, he's taking these arrows. He's going to drum them up support, and he's playing a kingmaker role. But he can't win, right? Donald Trump, and the right knows this, and Donald Trump has to know this, right? Even him, like
Well, I don't think he'll run because he'll be afraid he'll lose. Like he can't. He has to be able to walk away a winner, and he can do that now by saying that he was robbed.
Well, I think he's doing. I think what is going to happen, what to me, the left will be predictable in its way that it's going to spend too much time focusing on Donald Trump for fear that he might get elected, versus people like Ron DeSantis, who are much more likely to take the nomination. And it's almost like a way to provide top cover, or, it's like a sleight of hand type thing. So I don't personally believe that Donald Trump would run. I think Ron DeSantis is the most likely candidate. I don't think he's nearly as bad as Donald Trump, though. I think we disagree there. I genuinely don't. But I mean, when I say that, it's because I think he's less of a fucking idiot when he'll keep his mouth shut and he won't just be such an asshole and rude and all those other things. I don't favor him to win, but I recognize that the right can tell this stuff pretty far out. Things could change.
Personally, I think to run against DeSantis, the Democrats will have to put up a candidate that is pretty milquetoast.
That's what you got in Joe Biden.
Right. And we'd have to have another Biden type to run against DeSantis. I don't think Biden would be able to survive another term. I don't know if he'll survive this term.
No, I don't. I think it's becoming clear that it's becoming almost time that he's kind of overdue. Just watching him make speeches and talking to the press here and there. Watching Joe Biden can be painful sometimes. He's not always bad, but sometimes it's like, geez, dude.
He is. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes he is. Sometimes
Yeah.
And that's fine, I guess. He's old. I'd still rather have him here than Trump. But I mean, in a contest against DeSantis, there's no way. There's no way. But
I don't know.
Another milquetoast candidate, and that's a problem for the left. But I think it's the only way to beat somebody like DeSantis, because you need to be able to pull over establishment Republicans and conservatives that don't want a repeat of Trump.
Well, right. That's and frankly, I think I don't think Ron is as bad generally as Trump. Like when it comes to, I don't know. I genuinely think he's a much better face for the GOP than Donald Trump is. So that's good.
I guess I'd say he's as bad or worse on policy.
You think?
But you certainly, as a face for the party, absolutely. I mean, it's hard not to be a better face for the party than Donald Trump.
Right. But at the same time, Donald Trump is, like, on his own the most powerful politician in the United States right now. He gets to effectively pick out the next potential president of the United States, or be it. Depending on how things go. I mean, he's got the most sway of any single individual there is.
But the funny thing is, and part of it is because basically Republican politicians are cowards.
Like the Mitch McConnells. Yeah. That's that. But what choice do they have? I mean, that's the whole structure of the GOP. It became Donald Trump's party. Right, that's how it works.
In a very short period of time, and that's the thing that I find kind of amazing. That you get somebody like Lindsey Graham who basically said, "Oh well, if Trump leads our party's going to go down, and it deserves to go down." Right. And then
Trump is a lunatic, and then he's on the news a couple days later. I never said Trump was a lunatic.
Right. I don't. All I know is that here for the midterms, I'm pretty confident that it could go either way. I don't think that Democrats or the left are nearly as secure as I've heard some of them think that they are. I will tell you that.
I don't know anybody that should be claiming that. The midterms are set to be a disaster for the left.
I don't know about that, but
history. I mean, if history bears out, I mean, the party that is in the White House tends to lose. As in always, I think under Obama, there was the one midterm with Obama where actually there was an increase. The other one there was a decrease, but typically the party that's in the White House does pretty poorly for the midterm.
Sure. Yeah, I would prefer to have a GOP. I think the problems with the GOP, the stated problems from the left to the right of the GOP, are overstated, but I do think that they're a lot. Enough to make me walk away for a bit, anyway. I just don't know what to do about this, because there has to be a check on progressivism. If we could have it in such a way that it wasn't pared down to evangelicals, that would be fantastic. But
I don't know why there has to be so much of a check on progressivism. I mean,
I'm sure you wouldn't understand why.
I really don't see it. I don't. When you're talking about policies that are popular with 70% of the country, it doesn't make any sense to say we need to put a check on these things. This is what the people want, and there's plenty of money to pay for it if you actually do the things that progressives say you should do. It's not like the money doesn't exist.
No, there's not. There hasn't been money for a long time to pay for a lot of the things that we've done.
But there's billionaires out there that are going into fucking space.
Okay, yeah, from that.
I'm
from
sorry.
that, sure.
That fucking Jeff fucking Bezos can house every single fucking person in this country, and he wouldn't have to break much of a sweat.
You're just jealous. You're just jealous you didn't ride a dick into space.
Oh, please. Who says I didn't?
I would not question whether Raven about whether or not she's ridden a dick. So,
Wait up to you. So okay, Tommy, to answer your question, who Elizabeth Warren running with Mayor Pete would beat Trump, I think.
I want to know from Vegas what horrible, terrible tragedy would happen if progressivism proceeded unfettered.
Unfettered, progressive, less. It depends. Are you talking about just? Are we talking about the means of production? What are we talking about? How far left are we talking?
What's the worst thing that's going to happen if the left has its way?
You will cultivate a society that disincentivizes work.
We already do by taxing work more than we tax wealth.
I agree with that, and that's a problem.
Here's
already there.
See, here's the thing. I mean, I always hear that, and mind you, I'm not as progressive as the others on the panel. As I've said, many times, but the thing is that I'm not hearing anything out of what constitutes the left in the U.S. that's any more, that's any different than mainstream European stuff. So I mean, unless we think Britain or Germany is some health, like socialist hellscape, I guess I don't understand.
Yeah, it's not. We have a very American-centric idea of politics that's different from
bullshit.
Most of Europe.
Bullshit.
Right? Like how we classify
that's bullshit.
No,
do you know why
everyone I talk to from Europe says that we look at politics quite differently than
we do. We absolutely
we do. But the whole American is bullshit. It's we are brainwashed into this whole pull yourself up by the bootstraps, which by the way isn't a good thing. If you look up what that actually means, it basically means go fuck yourself. Is basically what it means. But this whole if you don't work, you don't eat, which was like not even really a part of the history of our country, by the way. That was one of the first settlements. And the only reason why that was a thing there was if you didn't all work, everybody fucking died. So since that is not our reality anymore, I don't understand why it would be such a horrible thing to adopt the kind of systems that other countries have, because if it works there, it would work here. And to say that we look at politics differently is a reason why it wouldn't. It's just a cop-out that makes absolutely no sense, and it's based on raw Americanism bullshit.
Well, first of all, I like Americanism. Second of all, I think it's more just
Nationalism is scary shit, yo.
well, it depends on how you define that. I know how you
Not
defined it. Yeah, and it is scary. So I think it's more just a check up on, or what it is it's allowing and ensuring that a thriving market economy is allowed to exist to the extent that it can.
And
Right.
Scandinavia has a thriving market economy. Most European countries do. Germany has a great thriving market.
Okay, well, you asked me. You got, like what?
Yeah, but okay,
you know,
that's the answer, though. That's the answer. So to say that you can't have something like that because we would want a thriving market economy makes no sense when that exists in other places.
there are conservatives in those countries too that keep it from going off the rails.
But the thing is, anything that, with the exception of maybe the Green Party, anything that's come out of the left that has been proposed is no more radical or leftist than anything that's going on in Europe now. So if we basically adopted those same things, and we got even more conservative people here to keep it from going off the rails, and also I point out the two best economies in the history of the country were the post-war 50s and under Clinton, and both times when we had higher tax rates, and certainly in the case of the 50s, extremely high tax rates, and we had if you
government programs, social programs,
so
we lifted millions of people out of poverty, and we fed millions of kids, and we educated millions of people. Why is that a bad thing? Why do we not want to do this?
All while helping Europe rebuild itself, I might add.
I didn't say you couldn't do it or that I would be against certain specific things. I don't care.
Like what though? Like what? Like the leftist? That's what we're asking for. That's what we're asking for. That's what we want. Let's educate our kids. Let's make sure people.
So like in your ideal would be hand over the industry of healthcare, right? You would
over the industry.
No.
What the fuck is that? What kind of Orwellian bullshit are you talking about?
Well, when I hear of so I would be on board. I could go as far as like a public option.
Here's the thing. The right always says, "Oh, government run. We don't want government run healthcare." Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor can't decide. The state is going to decide whether or not you can get care, and that's absolute fucking bullshit because that isn't what anybody is asking for. Nobody has ever fucking said that. The only people that say that are fucking right wingers. What we want is not government run healthcare. We want government to pay for the healthcare, government funded healthcare, and how is that any fucking different than insurance? You are already paying. If you pay insurance, you are already paying for people you don't know to get medical treatment. It's coming out of your pocket. So whether you give it to the insurance company to do it or you give it to the government to do it, and when the government does it, more people are going to be covered for the same fucking thing. You are already paying for other people's health care.
Well, also, one thing I need to point out is very important. Now, Raven said what I've said for a lot. That it's the government paid for, not government run, and this is an important distinction because again, the social democracies of Europe, Germany, France, UK, all that, they do not have government run healthcare either. They still have private providers. I know because my wife works in pharma, and she worked for a Swiss pharma company for 10 years. And those are the same companies that are here in the United States. They're the same ones over there. So, but that's the canard that's always, it's government run. No one is talking about getting rid of pharma companies. No one's talking about
they think about it. They think about it like the NHS, right?
Handing over the medical industry to the state is right wing propaganda bullshit.
Right. So that's the thing.
Propaganda.
It's literally like in Canada. And again, I used to work for a Canadian company, and we did projects in pharma. And it's the same companies, AstraZeneca and
Sure.
Merck and so basically, and in fact in Canada you can also have private insurance in addition to the
All right. So Raven, in so many words, said that's not her position. Understood. Taken.
So okay, so like for instance, another thing about the government run side
Sure.
of thing, right? One of the things that they say on the right all the time is if we were to do that, go with universal coverage, universal health care, the state would be able to tell you that you can't have certain procedures. But that's already the case with insurance companies. With the private market is already saying that I can't have certain procedures, even if I have insurance that I'm paying into. I have a kid who's on the spectrum. I can't get treatment for him because the insurance won't cover it. Won't cover it. The fuck is that nonsense? That Peach has a great job. She makes good money. And she pays a lot of money for insurance. And when we need help for our kid, they say, fuck you. So what the fuck are we paying insurance for? If it was covered by the state, if it was run by the state, we wouldn't have that problem.
Sure.
Peach and I can't get married because of fucking health insurance. I mean, and again, if it was run by the state, I wouldn't have that problem.
Right.
So yeah, Vegas, I have HIV, and in order to get treatment, I can't even fucking work. Otherwise, I would lose all my benefits, and I wouldn't be able to get medicine, which costs a couple $1,000s a month. So it's like it's one of those things where you see all the time, right? Disability, right? If you're disabled, you don't have equal rights. It's that kind of a thing. If I went and I got a job making $40,000 a year, I'd die in about 2 years because I wouldn't be able to get my medicine.
Right, and that's the thing.
Peach
Where
and I get married, I die. So
and that's the reason why I get annoyed when you remember when Obama was first talking about the public option and death panels. Like we have death panels now. We have insurance bodies that say no, you can't have that. So how I had a cardiac catheterization. They thought I had a problem with my heart and they had to go and check. I got pre-clearance, so the insurance company said, yeah, we'll cover that procedure. And then when the cardiologist submitted the bill, they rejected it.
Like every couple of months, I have to pick up, like every month I have to go pick up my meds, right? I go to the pharmacy to pick up my meds. Every couple of months, it's not ready. And I have to wait sometimes up to a week for my medicine. Luckily, I have actually a supply, like a backup supply, because I was smart and I figured it out early. I need to have a backup supply. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I have to wait up to a week every few months because they have to make sure through the insurance company that they're going to cover it.
So all of this is fine and well, and I don't have any moral objections to any of it. The point I was trying to make was just that there would be, so the left complains that healthcare is too expensive, therefore we need X. I argue that healthcare is very expensive, and there's like a lot of racketeering involved in insurance and healthcare. And so maybe an avenue that you would take before making some radical fundamental change would be to address the racketeering and this kind of thing first.
That's exactly what it does. Is address the racketeering by getting rid of it.
Yeah.
And looking at it as something else.
Yeah. Right. If there's no insurance
with some other veneer, we're just going to get rid of the racketeering, which is insurance companies.
Right. Yeah, insurance companies the markup is somewhere between 20 to 40% beyond the cost of delivering the funds. So however how much it costs to actually make the payment, they take a big of 20 to 40%.
According to the CBO,
that means that's not added value because the value was providing the payment. So
according to the CBO, it would cost us less if we had, a single payer system. It would cost.
I mean,
less.
What would be put into place though if there? I mean, I'm absolutely for a single payer thing. Let me make that clear from the start. But what under a single payer system, what would stop the hospitals from overcharging? What would stop the pharmaceutical companies from overcharging? What would stop all of this stuff where things are getting price gouged, where the taxpayers end up having to pay for all this price gouging?
Okay, two ways. One, right now, they're like Medicare is not allowed to negotiate prices for care. So particularly with drugs. So but whereas every other country in the world with the national health system of Canada and Germany, Britain, with all that, they negotiate those prices to help bring the prices down. Secondly, basically at a certain point, if because they have the buying power of the federal government, they can just literally tell people to fuck off and we're not paying that bill. You can't sue the government. Basically, the way the government's set up, you can only sue the government if the government says it's okay to sue them.
So yeah, but that point that Kazim's making, that's where my mind is on these kind of things. It's mostly like, okay, well, I wouldn't skip past these specific steps, right? Like, and I would want to, if possible, figure out that first.
But here's the problem. It's kind of a fallacy of relative privation. Like, well, we can't do X until we do Y. Well, why can't we do both at the same time? There's no reason why we can't address both issues.
Because it's difficult to try to find the answer with two variables instead of one, right? That's why you would want to do one before the other.
Right, but as Mike pointed out, at least a certain percentage of that racketeering, as you call it, is caused by the insurance companies.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
You take that out of the equation. Even if you change nothing else, you delete
But so would not a public option kind of answer for the insurance racketeering aspect of it? And so when I say that someone like me would be more in favor of the public option, right? Yeah. That kind of rather than necessarily dicking with the market, you would be competing with it in the way I don't know how to explain.
I know what you're saying, and the thing is, I'm okay for that because I think that is the path to getting us to Medicare for all. Because here's what's going to happen. I'll tell you right now: if there is a public option, all companies below 50 employees, or I won't say all, but the bulk of companies below 50 employees will drop their coverage and tell their employees to go on the public option. So that's going to push, and you figure small companies are 80% of the market. So you're going to have most companies saying, "Hey, you go in the public option and let me get a tax."
Right, and ideally, what that would do it would force insurance companies and all the rest of it to more come in line and be more competitive at a much more reasonable rate. Ideally,
right?
Yeah, that's the intent. That's why. Because right now I see a lot of these policy things as sort of being a pivot or a way to redress that, right? That high expenditure. And I go, well, let's try to solve for that high expenditure first, see where we're at, and take it from there.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's actually what most liberals are arguing for. So you see, we'll turn you into a liberal before you even know it. Because that's the thing. Like I said, I don't have a problem. Because here's the thing: even if we said tomorrow we're going to have Medicare for all, I know that that's such a big monumental thing. It's going to take time to phase in. So having calling it a public option and going with that as a starting point, it allows for it's going to be a transition on its own. And
well, that's not to say that the public option would have it easy, right? I mean, it has to prove it can compete, right, in that same system, and it should and it ought to. But that would probably take you a lot further by proving that that it would work here, right? Because we aren't other places. We don't know how it would pan out. I mean, we can take it on faith, but I think a lot of people would like to see the public option, test the waters, see how it works, see how it competes, see what it does to the insurance companies and how much it charges. And I think all that's pretty reasonable. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that's where a lot of the left is and has been for a long time.
My perspective on that is that it's been legalized grift for a very long time, and it's basically weaning them off the teat. instead of just kicking them right to the curb. We're going to let them have a little bit of these, profits off the backs of the healthcare system and profiteering over people suffering for just a couple more years as their industry dies out.
Well, I don't think the industry will die out completely. Like I said, in Canada, you can get supplemental insurance, so I don't think they'll ever go away completely. But they'll winnow away a lot, and their profitability will go down for sure. Because if they have to compete with a single payer system, that is that doesn't have the same level of overhead. I mean, actually, it should have the same level of overhead. It won't have the vig of the markup, because we're stupid to charge us extra, so to give us the benefit back. You know what I mean? We'd be charging ourselves.
We still don't get to the point of giving care regardless of the cost. Whereas a lot of my clients that come to me are mandated to, because we don't want to give the actual care that the client needs first. We want to see if we can give them a lower level of care and see if that can just put a Band-Aid on it and send them on their way. I imagine a lot of trans people run into this problem where they want to transition, but then there's rules and procedures that you have to see a psychotherapist so many times, and maybe even see 2 different ones to sign off on your paper saying that you actually need this procedure.
They do
years of therapy.
shit. They do weird, stupid shit like hormones.
Yeah.
Right. They'll give you a testosterone blocker. In my case, it's Spiro. And they'll give you a dose of estrogen. And the dose that they start everybody on isn't enough to really do anything. And the endocrinologist will fight like hell to keep you on a low dose that doesn't do anything for as long as possible, because that way they don't have to fight with the insurance company who doesn't want to pay it, or they don't want to approve it. They started me on 2 milligrams, and I told the endo, I've been on hormones, buying them myself off the internet, buying them out of my pocket for years. I'm on double that. And ended up having to fight with the insurance company until they finally caved in on it. And I know a lot of girls that just, they complain that they have to fight with the doctor to get the medicine that they need.
Right. And then the problem is, when it comes right down to it, the problem, as opposed to providers, it's different. But for the insurance company, their goal is not to pay insurance claims. Their goal is to make money. That's their incentive. They're actually incentivized to not do what they're paid to do. And that's a problem.
Yep, that's a problem. I mean, the thing that you don't take it in a vacuum. What you're opting for might yield in the end. It might not be as good. Okay. Like, I can get the argument they want it.
But again, you're looking, see, I know you called it faith, and that made me cringe. You're saying you're having faith that it'll work. I mean, it's literally worked in every industrialized country in the world.
Right. I was going to say,
but we're 300 million deep though, and we're,
right. But we get even better economies of scale. I always hear this argument, well, we're big and they're little places. Actually, smaller places have a bigger hurdle because the overhead to
I take your point. I get it.
So,
we're not reinventing the wheel. I mean, this has already been done. And with better outcomes, with
either way, from a strategy, I wouldn't be pursuing Medicare for all. I would be pursuing a public option. I think that's the only thing that you guys will be able to bite off.
But here's the thing: the only difference between the two things, literally, is that Bernie was talking about basically transitioning away entirely from private insurance, and
right.
The other one just says, "Oh, well,
it adds to versus takes away."
Right, but as far as the function of the two programs is otherwise the same.
Right, but
I don't understand the desire to hold on to private insurance companies. I mean, other than the jobs that are lost by the people who wouldn't be.
No,
I don't understand that. Because there's nothing gained by keeping them.
Well, here's the thing. you don't even lose that many jobs. You still need people to process claims. The only difference is they work for the government now instead of a private industry.
Yeah,
Private
and it's just like, instead of paying $75 a week to your insurance company, you'll pay $50 a week to the government for the same coverage. So
Yeah.
I don't understand why the whole about well, we can't lose private insurance. Why?
Because
why?
as much as they take, maybe there is a fear that the actual claims process, that the hospital, that the actual medical staff might be taking less of a cut than they were even in this system, right? You don't. That there are places that probably don't take Medicare because maybe it's too slow, maybe it doesn't pay out enough, maybe it doesn't do as well as something like Cigna or something like I don't know, United Healthcare or something like that.
Well,
maybe
that's a lot of
you know,
names. Do we have any evidence to that effect?
Do we have any evidence of doctors not taking Medicare?
Doctors not taking it, yeah. But I'm saying,
well, I think there's a
It's
lot
the
of
only
evidence.
game in town. It's the only. Then they're not going to practice healthcare. I mean, I don't understand. It's like
Well, I think that's the reluctance is exactly what you're talking about. You're saying, no, we're going to. I don't give a shit if you get paid less from Medicare. This is what you're going to take, and the doctor is going to be like,
okay, like again, this is a personal example.
Sure.
What I was talking about earlier, my kid, right? If Peach didn't have the health insurance that she did, I could put my kid on my state coverage. I have New Jersey Family Care. I could put him on that, and he would have full coverage for everything he needs, and it wouldn't be an issue. She has Aetna, and because she has a major company, we're getting fucked up the ass. So it's just like, So I mean, this whole thing about fear of like Medicaid not paying, bullshit. The big companies are just as bad, and a lot of places won't take certain ones depending on who they are. All depending on who they're getting a fucking kickback from.
And on top of that, you have in network and out of network. So you can only go to certain doctors
I'm just throwing stuff at the wall for you to chew on.
No, and like I said, I deal with this crap as an employer, and I'll tell you what, I can't wait for there to be something, because again, not only do I have to deal with the cost, which again I don't mind the money, but having to there's a whole bunch of rules I have to follow because I provide healthcare.
It makes it complicated.
It makes it complicated. Now I have regulatory costs and compliance costs, and if I don't follow the rules to the letter, I could get sued. I could all sorts of my business could get shut down. All sorts of terrible things can happen. And I'd much rather just pay a fucking tax bill and get out of the process. Why am I involved in the process of my employees' healthcare? I don't want that responsibility. I'd rather just pay a fucking bill and be done with it.
It is so ridiculous that people's healthcare, and whether or not they can get good healthcare is based on who their employer is and who they were lucky to get hired by. I mean, such a ridiculous system that was created after World War II. That we've just held on to it because.
Yeah. Well, socialism. Here's a personal story. When I used to work for a Canadian company, so what they were doing is they had we had good coverage, and at one point they decided that they didn't want to deal with the cost, so they just told us, hey, you go get your own coverage, and we'll just reimburse you 80%. Well, the thing is, you as an individual, you cannot get a policy anywhere near as good as a group plan. I know because I looked. You cannot get, and I went through several brokers, you cannot get as good of a coverage for an individual as you can for a group plan. And what I was going to get stuck with wasn't going to cover prescriptions. Now I've got a number of, and at the time there was just 2. Now I got 4 prescriptions I have to take. If I don't take those prescriptions, I'm going to have a stroke and die. So, and I know because I came close to having a stroke a couple times when I wasn't taking my medicine. So this is not hyperbole on my part. So when they said they were going to do this, I told my boss flat out, I said, if you guys do this, I'm going to quit. And because they're Canadian, they didn't understand the U.S. market. So we had a long drive to New York City to go to a meeting and back. And of course, anyone who's driven from New Jersey to New York to Manhattan knows that can be 2 hours each way. But so we had a long time in the car, and we discussed this, and I explained to him, what how it works here. And he said to me, well, Joe, what happens if someone can't afford insurance or doesn't have a job or pay insurance? I'm like, they die, Don. They die. And he was like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. He's like he didn't believe that was possible in the richest country on the planet. I'm like, no, Don, that's what happens if you can't get seen. Well, one of my employees, she has some health issues. Before she was working for me and had health care, she basically was like, hey, having she has like heart arrhythmia problems. She would go to the hospital. They would, quote unquote, stabilize her and then kick her out with a heart rate of like 140. She could have died. She could have died, but
You're
because
gonna reach back into old school YouTube here, but do you remember Rev J Dubs?
yes,
He made a statement several years ago that people in the United States don't die from lack of health care. So, and there are Americans, people who fucking live here, who have no idea that people die in fucking waiting rooms here because they're waiting for hours and hours and hours to be seen. They have no idea that people are sent out onto the street on a stretcher after they've been stabilized. But it happens. They put people outside on a fucking stretcher.
My friend Adam died of pneumonia. It'll be 5 years in February. And basically what ended up happening, now he had health insurance. He was working for the defense contractor he was working for the Mint down in Philly. But because his company had shit coverage, he had like a $5,000 deductible for hospitalization that he couldn't afford. So he didn't go to the hospital to get treated for his pneumonia, and he died. He eventually ended up going to the doctor. They gave him oral antibiotics, which was dick for someone who had entrenched, pneumonia. And 3 days later, he died. He basically choked on his own blood because he couldn't afford the deductible from the hospitalization. And that's the thing. So when I hear all these things about all these horror stories of what might happen, and I just look around at myself or people I know have experienced, I'm like, we have these horror stories all the fucking time.
Yeah, it's already a horror story. Yeah, because what we're doing never.
Well, here's the thing.
Never worked.
A number of years back, my wife and I, we both ended up in the hospital for like under 4 days each time. I had cellulitis in one leg. She went in and she had we think viral meningitis. So we were in, like I said, I was in like about 3 days, 3 and change. The bill for each of those bills were around $25,000. Now, because we had good coverage, we paid on each bill. We paid like $1,300 on one and $1,500 on the other, affordable. But otherwise, we would have been stuck with it would have came to like $51,000 for a tiny bit of hospitalization. Where literally we were warehoused in the hospital, and I got IV antibiotics, and she had something viral, so they didn't even give her antivirals. They just basically in the warehouse.
So the thing is, if you went and if you did not have insurance, and you said they billed $25,000, if you took your bill to that hospital when you got billed and you said, look, I don't have insurance, you know what they would do? Because all of this is made up. It costs what? It costs whatever they fucking says it costs, whatever they say it costs, right? They would say, they would just like, well, how much can you pay? because the thing is, all of this stuff is made up. And
right,
so,
but see, what ends up happening in Vegas is that the rest of it, they pad the rest of the bills to make up for the people who can't pay.
Yeah, well,
so that's the whole thing. We're already paying for people who don't have insurance. We just aren't accounting for it very well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would like if in your calculus, when you guys go forth and institute all of these wonderful healthcare things, just have a cost focused approach and make sure that you're, focused on that side of it, because I think most of this has to do with straight up greed, racketeering, and a bunch of other of that kind of bullshit.
Right,
And
but-
that's not just the insurance company. That has to do with the actual healthcare itself.
Yeah, but
That's
see,
to do with pharmaceuticals.
we have a cost focused system now, and it produces worse outcomes. See, if we had a care focused system, we would actually be cheaper, because another thing too, a lot of prophylactic care is not covered. So if you're really badly sick, they'll cover you, but to prevent you from getting sick, they don't, and that's totally ass backward. I mean, if you get people to be well, then they're less likely to need and consume services.
Sure, I agree.
But if you think about it, this is the reason why HMOs pretty much failed, because the whole idea was that, well, if we let people just go to the doctor and go to their specialist, they're just going to go and they're going to consume all these extra services that are not needed.
Isn't that what do I have a PPO or an HMO? I don't even know what it is.
Because everybody is going to just run and be hypochondriacs. But then what they found is, by making people go to their GP before they went to the specialist, didn't really reduce the number of people going to the specialist. It just added an extra cost. So this cost focus actually it costs more. It's it's just like the people when they want to drug test people are on welfare. They find a tiny number of people that are actually on drugs, and it costs more to monitor them than they save on the welfare coverage.
I just think that we need to make sure that there's not gouging going on.
Yeah.
That's I mean, we have to at least focus on cost in that regard. Make sure there's not gouging going on.
I think there's a lot of gouging. I think there's a lot of gouging.
I think so. But I think it'll be easier to combat that, because I got gouged once, and mind, it wasn't a massive amount of money, but I got in a car accident, and they sent me for PT because of my injuries. So what did they do? So they charged me, like you said, they made up a number. And first off, half of the stuff on the bill they didn't actually do. They just put it on the bill.
Right.
So, but what they do is they then mark it down, because the insurance company is only going to pay XYZ. So so my deductible was $250. So they basically reduced the bill down to $250.02. So of course the insurance company's not going to fight 2 cents, because they'd be morons to even it already cost them more than 2 cents to pay the 2 cent bill. They're not going to fight it.
Right.
So then I got stuck with a bill for $250 that was bogus, and I tried to fight it, and then I actually ended up paying it because I didn't want. They were threatening to file a judgment against me. And so basically I got saddled with paying a bill that was bullshit. Like roughly half of the bill was completely bullshit.
So I'll tell you, I suffered a head injury, a pretty severe one, a few years back, and when I was in the ICU for a little bit, and I had I had never met up until this point a neurologist in my life, and I swear to God, between here and Denver, every fucking neurologist that exists was in there to collect a check on my behalf. Hi, how you doing?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it was an unreal, incredibly disrespectful thing to go through with that. It was so obvious that they were just there to collect. I had to cut them off, and I had to tell off a doctor. I'm like, enough of you. So.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's within the current auspices. So it's obviously already happening. So again, I definitely want to control costs. But I think that, the way we do it now does not do that effectively. And again, I'm fine with having a public option, because I feel that people, when they see that the public option is, ends up costing them less money and you're getting better service, they're going to want to go on their own.
Right. But that's an important step to get through, for a lot of people. And I think it's a reasonable thing to demonstrate for people. I don't think it's unreasonable.
No, I don't think it's unreasonable either. And like I said, I think also, and I know I'll say it's strongly indicated that if it comes out and it works, that most small businesses will kick their employees off their own plan and push them onto the public option.
Who knows? Maybe maybe the insurance company does something, changes something to accommodate a whole different level. Who knows? I mean, by doing that, you open up a lot of different possibilities. So
Sure. And hey, that's good too. If the insurance companies get their acting gear and stop marking up so much. Because again, I'm not against profit, but I don't think they should be taking 20, 30, 40%.
This is kind of dumb. They don't provide enough or really anything at all to warrant making billionaires off of that process, right?
Agreed.
So
Agreed. And that's the thing. If you can get them, even if you get it down to like in the 10 to 15% range, that's a huge savings. It's billions and billions of dollars in savings that could go toward actual care.
yeah, I think it's fine. I would care about a public option about as much as I care about the post office existing. It's fine. Sounds good. Do it. Go for it. I don't care.
Well, on that note, I think it's pretty late, later than normal. But I started us late, so but we've been going for, it says 3 hours and 19 minutes. It seems longer, but that's okay. But I want to thank you. You want yeah, Mike? I saw that look on your face. But
Talk to you guys forever.
I'm glad that everybody showed up. And thanks for even after I started, almost an hour and a half late. So I think it was fun, and definitely I think Paul will be back next weekend, and we'll start at the regular time. So I won't say same bat time, same bat channel, because hopefully it'll be the proper time and not when I started. But I think I think it was a good discussion, and people contributed. And Kazum, contributed simply by being there and being handsome. So let's just go around the table if anybody has any last words. Raven?
Last words.
Kazum?
Last words.
Vegas?
I got nothing. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. Mike? And for me, I'll just say, thanks again. And Vegas, again, I appreciate the fact that, you're in the unfortunate position of being the only conservative on the panel, that you end up kind of the proxy for a lot of things that you don't necessarily believe. So I appreciate that. I believe you when you say the various things that you don't support that other people that claim to be conservative do. But thanks for taking the slings and arrows.
Yep, no problem. Thanks.
Take care, everybody.